Chapter 199. Tonight, Yang Yi invited Guozi and Ding Xiang to his house for dinner. The main reason was for the small party at home tomorrow. Yang Yi would definitely be unable to handle it by himself, so he wanted Guozi and Ding Xiang to come over and help. It's not for free. I'll give you two a big red packet later. Yang Yi said to Guozi and Ding Xiang with a smile as he picked up food for his daughter. This guy was getting more and more familiar with the ways of the Chinese world. He had even bought a book to learn about it. Even the tradition of giving red packets was something he had read about in books. No need, no need. Ding Xiang and Guozi waved their hands almost at the same time and said in unison. She slurped down her food and looked at Ding Xiang with her big eyes. She also glanced at Guozi from time to time. She knew both of them, but this was the first time she saw them together. Guozi smiled and said, "Brother Yang, you know that I'm not short of money. If I come over and help, I can even freeload food and drink. Why would you give it to me? Why don't you give both of your red packets to my senior sister?" What was a senior sister? Shi's eyes lit up like a light bulb. She had questions. However, at this time, Shi was eating a piece of crispy and sweet braised pork and didn't have time to ask. "I don't want it either." Ding Xiang blushed and waved her hand and said, "Brother Yang has provided me with such a good job and such a generous salary. How can I still ask for money? Salary is salary. This is rest time. I'm asking you to come out and help." Yang Yi still wanted to persuade. However, Ding Xiang said firmly, "There's really no need. Brother Yang, just let me help." Yang Yi wasn't a wishy-washy person. He shrugged and smiled. "Big brother Yang gave it to you, just take it," Guozi said with his mouth stuffed. He was really being wishy-washy. At this moment, Shi, who had been holding back her question for a long time, finally finished eating the big piece of braised pork. She pouted her greasy little mouth and asked excitedly, "Uncle Guo, is Sister Ding Xiang your girlfriend?" Girlfriend. When Yang Yi heard his daughter's innocent words, he didn't want to laugh. Instead, he became vigilant. Where did Shi learn this word? Did someone confess to her in kindergarten? Which blind brat? Guozi and Ding Xiang blushed at the girl's sudden question. Ding Xiang and Guozi hurriedly waved their hands and denied in unison. Shi, where did you hear that? Girlfriend. Yang Yi picked up some food for his daughter and asked calmly. The girl was very disappointed with Guozi and Ding Xiang's denial. She thought she had guessed correctly. Facing her father's question, she said nonchalantly, "The TV said that Little Bing Bing is Little Long Long's girlfriend, so Little Bing Bing can't play with De Zhuang. What kind of cartoon is this?" Yang Yi was speechless. He had to make Shi watch less TV in the future. Because he was going to publish a book, Yang Yi specially went to understand the market of children's books and children's entertainment products in this world. He felt that the children's entertainment content in this world was uneven. There were excellent works like Rem's, but there were also crude works like Little Long Man's. More importantly, even if it was Rem, its content was more adult. The whole market was like this. Adult cartoonists and writers used adult eyes to create content. Even if they imitated a child's tone, the content was more suitable for children above the age of 10. It seems that I have to write Journey to the West and other storybooks as soon as possible, Yang Yi thought to himself. Just as Yang Yi was worrying about the country, people and future generations, Ding Xiang was reminded by Shi and remembered something. She smiled and asked Guozi, "Didn't you want to chase that graduate student senior? How's it going?" Guozi said proudly, "It's too simple. I'm the entertainment committee member of my class. After discussing with my classmates, they all agreed to sign me up. At the freshman party, I'll sing a solo." "Then what are you going to sing?" Ding Xiang asked curiously. "A small town in the south." Guozi felt that he was better at this song. Yang Yi frowned and said, "This song doesn't fit your concept of chasing a girl." Now that she was full, she asked her father to wipe his mouth and then jumped around the living room with the 3 kittens who were also full. Yang Yi didn't stop Ding Xiang and Guozi from talking about this topic. He was going to join in and give advice to Guazi. Guazi scratched his head and said in confusion, "Isn't a small town in the south good? How about I sing Brother Yang's song, once you?" Brother Yang's song. Brother Yang can write songs. Ding Xiang was a little surprised. Hee, you don't know, right? Last time Chen Yijie. Guazi proudly talked about how Yang Yi sold songs to Chen Yijie. He smiled and said, "But don't tell anyone. Brother Yang is afraid of being harassed by paparazzi when he becomes famous, so he doesn't want to reveal his identity." Ding Xiang's reaction was flat. How could she have the time and energy to look at celebrity gossip? What kind of big star Chen Yijie was, she didn't have any idea. But she still nodded seriously and promised Yang Yi, "Brother Yang, you can rest assured that I won't tell anyone." Yang Yi smiled and waved his hand. He didn't care too much. "However, once you, Brother Yang, you haven't made this song public yet, right? Will it be bad if I sing it in public?" Guazi pondered and said, "It's okay, you can sing as much as you want." Yang Yi touched his chin and said, "It's just that I think once you is the same as a small town in the south. The concept is not quite in line. How about I change it for you?" "Change what?" Guazi was overjoyed. College days, Yang Yi said lightly. At night, Yang Yi really began to write down the manuscript of Journey to the West, as he had thought before. However, Yang Yi had been hesitating about a question. That was, should he copy the original text word for word, or should he adapt it himself and write it into an easy-to-understand vernacular text? Needless to say, the original text certainly looked better than the vernacular text of Journey to the West. After all, this was a story that happened in ancient times. But Yang Yi felt that he didn't know classical Chinese. Even if he could read it out silently, it would be difficult to explain it clearly. Finally, Yang Yi thought of his original intention of writing this story. It wasn't for scholars to study, nor was it for adults to cultivate their sentiments. He wrote it to add fun to children's childhood. In that case, it was better to write it into vernacular text. Even if it was a little rough, as long as children could understand it, as long as ordinary adults could read it out, and then children could like the story inside, it would be enough. Before that, Yang Yi opened his mailbox and prepared to send the manuscripts that he had collected during this period of time to Changzi, so that he wouldn't be anxious all day long. However, Yang Yi found that there were several emails from Zhu Jie in his mailbox, including a money order of 3 million yuan. Interesting. Yang Yi's mouth curved up slightly. Chapter 200. You have to have fun today, do you understand? Then remember to ask Papa to take a picture. Mom wants to see it when she comes back. Mom is very sad because Mom won't be able to attend our Shishi's first family party. Murphy was already in Yongqing. Because she had to leave for the TV station very soon, she had to rehearse for the program in advance, so she called Shishi early to talk to her. "I know. Mom, don't be sad, Shishi will miss you." The little girl obediently held onto her father's phone and said to her mother. Murphy was very busy, so she hurriedly said a few words to Yang Yi and told Yang Yi to take care of Shishi and the other children. Then, she put away her phone and rushed to the TV station with Mo Shaowen. Yang Yi was actually very busy as well. He drove to the market early in the morning to buy the ingredients for today's meal. Yes, he drove. He didn't have to run across the mountains to buy ingredients like he usually did. No matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to carry it back. Guazi and Ding Xiang had already arrived, but Yang Yi didn't need their help in preparing the food. The little fatty only knew how to steal food, and Ding Xiang wasn't as good as Yang Yi. So they were arranged by Yang Yi to set up the venue in the coffee shop downstairs. Actually, it was a bit troublesome because they had to move the big table out of the booth and put it at the back to make space for the adults to walk around and interact. Of course, more importantly, they had to arrange the food. Yang Yi planned to make it like a buffet where they could walk around freely to eat. Then, they had to leave enough seats for the adults to rest and for the little ones to play. As for the piano, Yang Yi temporarily kept it. Guazi volunteered to be Yang Yi's temporary pianist. However, Ding Xiang had her doubts. She felt that Guazi wouldn't even be able to lift his arms after moving everything. In the kitchen on the second floor, Yang Yi was nervously preparing the food for the afternoon party. He started with some desserts and snacks, because some of them needed to be refrigerated for a while. Shishi played with the kittens by herself, but the little girl was very excited today and couldn't sit still. After a while, she ran over and looked around. She pretended to be very interested and asked, "Papa, what are you doing?" "I'm making pudding, all kinds of pudding, but now I'm making matcha pudding." Yang Yi was adding matcha powder into the ingredients and slowly mixing them together. The little girl was not interested in how to do it. She was very interested in eating pudding, but now she just licked her lips and continued, "Papa, when will XNR and the others come?" Yang Yi poured the mixed matcha pudding into the pudding bottles he had specially purchased. Then, he placed them into a steamer filled with hot water and lit the fire. Aren't they supposed to arrive in the afternoon? They might have eaten lunch and taken a nap before their parents drove them here. It's still early, Yang Yi said to Shishi with a smile while wiping his hands. Is that so? I want to play with them so much. Papa, look, Xiao Guai is also waiting. I told Xiao Guai that there will be a lot of sisters' friends coming to visit it today. The little girl pointed to the kittens in the living room who were licking their paws and looking at her. Yang Yi forbade the kittens from visiting the kitchen. Sometimes when they went to the dining room, he would catch them and take them back. After all, these places needed to be cleaned. In order to prevent them from entering the kitchen, Yang Yi specially bought citrus freshener and sprayed it around the kitchen and the entrance. Cats didn't like this smell, so although Xiao Guai liked to stick to Shishi, they still avoided the kitchen. Issy, have you thought about it? This afternoon your friends will come over. How are you going to treat them? In addition to taking them to see the kittens, is there any other program? Yang Yi asked with a smile. There's still a program to prepare. Let me think about it. She found something to do, so she didn't want to disturb her father. Finally, in the afternoon, luxury cars were parked in the open space outside the Yang family's house. Springfield Kindergarten was indeed located near the rich villas in Tingshan district. Father Yang, I don't know what to bring. Red wine is popular in our country. Although it's not very appropriate, I'll leave it for you. You can have a candlelight dinner with your wife. Lan Xian's father, Lan Hao Kai, was a real estate tycoon. Although he didn't wear a suit, his casual clothes still made him look extraordinary. Of course, his tolerance was also extraordinary. He was indeed Lan Xian's biological father. This is good. That's my type. Yang Yi laughed heartily as he shook hands with the other party. Although Yang Yi was a little pretentious, just like when he went to big events to carry out missions in his previous life, a cafe owner who liked peace and quiet completely disguised himself as a smooth social butterfly. He could talk and laugh with Lan Hao Kai, and he could also talk gently and elegantly with another child's parent. Red wine wasn't actually a good gift, because Murphy didn't drink anymore. Even if it was a candlelight dinner, she couldn't open red wine. But Yang Yi still accepted it in surprise, giving Lan Hao Kai a good impression. The world of adults was indeed a little complicated, but the world of children was much simpler. As soon as Lan Xian arrived, she broke free from her father's hand and ran excitedly to Shishi, who was talking to her other friends. The two girls hugged each other excitedly. The group of little friends were chattering away, and it was very lively. Lan Xian's mother was a housewife. She smiled and said to Yang Yi, "Our XNR always comes back and praises Shishi's father for being good at cooking. Daddy Yang, you have to teach me a few tricks. Otherwise, XNR won't like my cooking anymore." Course, that's not a problem. Let's talk more later. Yang Yi smiled. Now that there was another parent with a child, he made an apologetic gesture and then asked Guazi to come over and help with the reception. He himself went to welcome the new guest. Ding Xiang was hard-working and capable, but she couldn't handle such an occasion. On the other hand, Guazi seemed to be familiar with it. He didn't look like a 16-year-old at all. He came over with a few glasses of juice and greeted the guests with a smile. It was Yang Yi's family, But it wasn't her mother that Yang Yi had seen before. Instead, it was a middle-aged man. The obedient Chi-Chi wasn't like Lon Exon. She stood beside him shyly and even politely called out, "Hello, Uncle Yang." "Hello, are you Yang Shi's father?" "I'm Yang Luochi's father, Yang Gua. This should be the first time we've met." Usually, her mother comes to pick up Chi-Chi, but today, her mother is busy. Yang Luochi's father was older than Lan's Hao Kai, who was late in getting married. He had a bookish air about him. "Haha, yes, we were a family 300 years ago. Hello, hello." Yang Yi shook hands with him and smiled. He didn't forget Yang Luochi. He nodded to the little girl in a neat dress and said, "Chi-Chi, you're finally here. Shishi has been talking about you all morning." "Really?" Yang Luochi was a little happy and looked at Shishi and the others eagerly. Chapter 201. Seeing his daughter's expectant eyes, Yang Gua patted her on the shoulder and said softly, "Go and play with your friends. Since you're out today, have fun." With her father's permission, Yang Luochi walked towards Shishi and the others alone. This child was really a little reserved. Even though she was already jumping for joy, she still didn't jump and run like Lon Exon, which showed that she had a good upbringing. In the conversation that followed, Yang Yi learned that Yang Gua was a teacher. He was a professor majoring in foreign languages. Of course, he wasn't a professor at Zhongqing Media University. He was a professor at another university in Tingshan District. Yang Yi received several parents one after another, including Chen Shiyun's father, Chen Guoqiang, a boxing coach. Of course, Yang Yi had seen him before, and Chen Shiyun's mother. They came together as a family. Nan Zhaoyu also came with his father. It was worth mentioning that his father, Mr. Nan Zhaoyu, was a great calligrapher. No wonder Nan Zhaoyu liked to read poems. Nan Yun was nearly 50 years old this year. He had a son at an old age, so he was very fond of Nan Zhaoyu. So many parents, most of whom were older than Yang Yi. Only Chen Guoqiang was about the same age as Yang Yi. Fortunately, they were all experienced people. Even if they were of different ages, they could talk to each other. Moreover, they had children as a common topic, so the scene was quite lively. Not to mention the adults, the children were having a lot of fun. They didn't have a kindergarten teacher watching over them today. They were like birds that had escaped from their cages, flying around and making a mess in the coffee shop. Of course, it was also very interesting. Shishi. Yang Luochi was still thinking about the kittens. She found an opportunity to tug at the little girl, who was grinning from ear to ear, and said softly, "Can you take me to see Xiao Guai and the others?" "Yes, see Xiao Guai, I want to see Xiao Guai too." Lon Exon heard and shouted loudly, "Okay. I've never seen a blue cat in my entire life." Chen Shiyun, who was 4.5 years old, chimed in loudly. "Tisk, you've never seen a blue cat before." "I've seen a lot of them." Lon Exon proudly raised her head. This guy and Chen Shiyun didn't get along well, probably because they often compared whose voice was louder. Hee, well, I'll ask my papa to take us up." She smiled, turned around and ran to her father. However, her little friends were also 4 or 5 years old energetic children. How could they stay still? They giggled and ran behind Shishi. Yang Luochi also trotted along. The little demure girl was probably influenced by her companions and gradually became more relaxed. "Slow down, look at how sweaty you are." Yang Yi heard the commotion and hurriedly turned around to catch the little girl who had pounced over. He even squatted down and used his hand to wipe off the fine sweat on her forehead. "Papa, can you take us up to see Xiao Guai?" She smiled sweetly. There were 7 or 8 children behind her. Some of them were not very familiar with Yang Yi and looked at him with a little fear. Others, like Lon Exon and Chen Shiyun, were already very familiar with Yang Yi, so they also chimed in. Yang Yi couldn't leave. He couldn't leave a group of adults on the first floor, so he asked Ding Xiang, who was not very comfortable in the crowd, to take the key and accompany the children upstairs to play. Ding Xiang was not as attractive as the kittens. As soon as she went upstairs, the group of children left her behind and swarmed over to Shishi. They shouted and yelled as they pounced on the kittens who were lazily playing in the living room. Meow! Little Gray was more alert. Seeing that the situation was not good, it rolled over and ran away. Climbed up the cat tree in a few steps and even slid down the ladder to the top shelf. It was shivering and closing its eyes to sleep. Xiao Guai's reaction was one step slower. The two kittens were immediately surrounded by the naughty children. The boldest one, Chen Shiyun, couldn't wait to grab Shivering, who had just woken up and was still licking its paws and rubbing its face. Of course, Xiao Guai was still picked up by Xixi. Look, this is Xiao Guai, my Xiao Guai. Xixi happily held up Xiao Guai for everyone to see. Meow! Xiao Guai was held up high and was stared at by a large group of naughty children with bad intentions in their eyes. It was a little nervous and struggled. Its tail was curled up and tucked behind its butt, indicating that it was very scary. Earth is too scary, I want to go back to planet Meow Meow. It's so cute. Young Luochi's eyes were blurred. This kind of cute little kitten was really not something that two-legged animals could resist. Except for Chen Shiyun, who was excitedly pressing down on Shivering, who was struggling hard. She also stroked Shivering's fur and studied it. After a while she shouted loudly, Xixi, you're wrong. It's not a blue cat. It's not blue, it's black. How can a black cat look like this? Lan Exen wanted to snatch Shivering from Chen Shiyun's claws. Chen Shiyun, who had finished her research, didn't refuse and let go of her hand. Well, it's gray. Chen Shiyun scratched her head and said, anyway, it's not blue. Sisi was carefully placing Xiao Guai into the arms of Yang Luochi, who was already unable to restrain herself. When she heard Chen Shiyun's words, she hurriedly explained, no, it's still blue. It's just that the color is darker. My mama said it's grayish blue. Then. Chen Shiyun nodded, but she was a little disinterested. She felt that the docile kitten was not fun. Her big dog was more powerful, jumping up and down, and could even use its mouth to catch plates. The other kittens didn't have as good resistance as Chen Shiyun. Shivering, and Xiao Guai were all being hugged and kissed. Only Xiao Guai, who had escaped to the shelf and refused to come down no matter what, escaped. My Xiao Guai is the smallest, but it's very powerful. The last time I went to barbecue with Papa, it even caught a little bug. Xixi was also very excited to tell some small stories to her friends. I'm so envious of Xixi. I also want a kitten, but my grandma doesn't like cats, so she won't let me raise it. Young Luochi gently touched the fluffy hair on Xiao Guai's head and said regretfully. After playing for a long time, Yang Yi came up, clapped his hands and said with a smile, children, it's time to go down. Uncle has prepared a lot of delicious food for you. If you don't go down, those things will be eaten by your parents. Food. Chen Shiyun was the first to jump up. She had been unable to hold back for a long time. The second to jump up was Lan Exin. As soon as she heard that there was food, and it was delicious food made by Xixi's father, how could the chubby girl sit still? I want to eat barbecue. Lan Exin shouted, drooling. Me too. We want it too. Encouraged by the loud voice, the group of children immediately left the kitten and shouted like they were in a market. Shivering also jumped onto the cat tree and didn't want to come down anymore. Xiao Guai had been carried here and there, so it couldn't even walk steadily. However, it still managed to climb up the cat tree and crawl into the small mine, with fear lingering in its heart. Only its butt and tail were exposed outside, wagging. But how could the children care about the kitten? Xixi didn't care either. She took Yang Luochi's hand, giggled, and wanted to rush down with the big group. No, you have to wash your hands first. Yang Yi helplessly stopped the little one and pointed to the bathroom. After stroking the cat, they had to wash their hands, not to mention eating. Chapter 202. On the other hand, when Yang Yi was calling the children downstairs to eat, Murphy had also officially started recording the program. Fast music, in Yangcheng. Obviously, with Murphy's current status in the music industry, She couldn't be the only guest of this program. She was only a foil. The main guest of this program was Lee Man, who hadn't released a platinum album yet, but had been rising rapidly in recent years. Lee Man had always been hyped as a commoner queen. Note 1. Obviously, this program wanted to create a PK scene between a former queen and a popular queen. Inviting Murphy to come was also an ulterior motive. Mo Xiaowan accompanied Murphy to the TV station today. She only knew about this arrangement after getting the script. She almost flipped out on the spot. Fortunately, Murphy was still calm. She stopped Mo Xiaowan, who wanted to make a scene. Maybe the TV station deliberately arranged this, but what can I do? Do I still have the right to refuse? Murphy's voice was slightly sad, but her face was still calm. Mo Xiaowan didn't think that this was only the TV station's problem. She felt that there was something fishy going on inside the company. But Mo Xiaowan hung her head dejectedly. Murphy was right. They didn't have the right to refuse now. Even if the program was unfavorable to her, as long as it didn't touch on her principles, she could only endure the grievances and continue recording. Murphy was no longer the popular queen in the past. If she was a third-rate artist who threw a tantrum, she would be criticized by thousands. Which TV station would dare to invite her on a program in the future? Murphy faintly looked at the dazzling Lee Man in the crowd and calmly said to Mo Xiaowan, "I've already experienced the lowest point. Now, I don't have anything to be afraid of losing. Since the program arranged for me to fight with her on the same stage, then there's no harm in trying. I don't think I'll lose." Just as Murphy was comforting Mo Xiaowan, Lee Man, who was wearing a shiny silver leather jacket and pants, walked over. She smiled like a flower and said, "Senior Murphy, long time no see. I just found out from the production team. I didn't expect to be able to record a show with you today. I used to be your fan." She was now a real big shot. She didn't even show up for the rehearsal in the morning, but the production crew still had to carefully serve her. However, Lee Man's current voice was very modest, so modest that it made people feel that it was fake. Mo Xiaowan noticed that several people were faintly discernible behind Lee Man. She raised her guard and whispered to Murphy, "Pay attention to your words, there may be reporters." Of course, her reminder wasn't necessary. Murphy used a dull tone to deal with Lee Man's inexplicable attentiveness. Not long after, she found an excuse to leave with Mo Xiaowan. Behind them, Lee Man restrained her smile. Her face was a little uncertain. She softly snorted, "Why are you pretending to be virtuous?" After a while, after Murphy touched up her makeup, she was informed to go backstage to record the show. Lee Man was already standing on the stage. She smiled sweetly and wittily chatted with the host Lu Xinqi and Chen Hang. They were recording the first section of the show. Lee Man's aura was very strong. Not only was she able to give a very clever answer to the host's tricky questions, but she also had a faint feeling of being the host. The male host, the handsome Chen Hang, almost couldn't control the situation. Obviously, everyone's success wasn't accidental. Murphy's previous success was due to her many years of accumulation and the explosive success of her album. Although Lee Man didn't have good singing skills, she had a pretty face, a sweet voice, and a smooth and slick personality. Coupled with the support of the company behind her, it was normal for her to be unparalleled in the limelight. Murphy watched from the backstage. She admired Lee Man's ability, but she wasn't envious at all. She didn't like to be so casual. That wasn't her character. Okay, now let's applaud and welcome Murphy, who became famous with the song Strangers, and is known as the Queen of Iceberg songs. Chen Hang called out loudly, interrupting Murphy's thoughts. With the background music of Strangers, Murphy gradually came out from the backstage. In the camera, she was wearing a plain white dress. She was still the same as 5 years ago, floating like an immortal. The years seemed to have no trace of the passage of time on her body. Lee Man looked at Murphy's tall and beautiful appearance. A trace of jealousy flashed in her eyes, but she hid it very well. "Wow, our fast music, can actually welcome two Queen-level singers to visit at the same time. It's really an honor. Tonight's audience, you are also very lucky. Lu Xinqi laughed. No, how can I be regarded as a queen? Sister Murphy is the queen. Li Man covered her mouth and laughed. She began to introduce her experience of listening to Murphy's songs before, which transferred the audience's attention to herself. Amo Shaowan was watching the recording of the show from an inconspicuous corner below the stage. She was secretly worried about Amo Fei, who was standing on the side like a pillar after getting on the stage. Elder sister, you need to say something. The weight is going to be taken by others. The host still asked Murphy a few questions, but the focus was still on Li Man. Finally, the next segment was Li Man's live performance. Li Man sang the theme song of her new album released after avoiding Chen Yiji's limelight in August. The sales of this album were also relatively hot. Unfortunately, it was a breath away from the standard of platinum album. So when the host asked this question, Li Man showed an attitude that she didn't live up to expectations and let her fans down. After saying some emotional words that made her fans' eyes turn red, she clenched her fist and encouraged. But it doesn't matter, I will continue to work hard and strive for the next time. I won't let you cry for me again. The host finally found an opportunity to ask Murphy, who was in the background. As far as we know, Murphy is also preparing her new album, right? Murphy nodded. Wasn't the last album released only a few months ago? Why are you releasing a new album so soon? Lu Xinqi pretended to be surprised and asked. Because of a coincidence, I got the help of a benefactor. He helped me write 12 songs, which were very well written. Xinqi, you also know that we musicians want to record the good songs as soon as we come across them. Coupled with the strong support of the company, the new album was put on the agenda. Murphy said the lines that she had already prepared. After her discussion with Amo Shaowan, Mu Xiong's identity was no longer just a fan. Murphy felt that it wasn't too much to regard him as a benefactor on her music road. He can write 12 songs for Murphy. This benefactor is amazing. Chan Hang said in surprise. Can you reveal which senior in our music industry he is? Mu Xiong. Murphy said faintly. Her tone and expression had always been the same and hadn't changed. But including the two hosts who knew about it, other people's expressions were wonderful. Chapter 203. Mu Xiong. Chen Hang was surprised. Lu Xinqi also tacitly asked. Is it the Mu Xiong who wrote, Better Not Meet, and Long Time No See, for teacher Chen Yijie? Sure enough, he was the host of the Cantonese TV station. He habitually put the Cantonese song, Better Not Meet, first. Yes. Murphy's answer caused the audience to exclaim in surprise. I came to your city. Li Man hid the surprise, envy, jealousy, and hatred in her eyes. She sang a few lines of Chen Yiji's song to attract the attention to herself. I really like teacher Mu Xiang's song. In fact, a female voice can also be very interesting. Unfortunately, this time she didn't succeed in stealing the limelight. After all, Mu Xiong wrote 12 songs for Murphy, which was more important. Lu Xinqi cleverly led the topic back to Murphy. There is still a very gossipy question. Mu Xiong can write 12 songs for Murphy, and I believe there are many good songs. The relationship between you two should not be ordinary, right? Murphy frowned. She was a little disgusted with this question, so she straightforwardly responded. No. Does that mean there is no special relationship between you two? Or it hasn't started yet? Chan Hang also began to stir up trouble and asked with a smile. The former, teacher Mu Xiong, is an excellent composer. He chose the right singer for his song, and he thought my voice and singing were suitable, so he chose to cooperate with me. Murphy straightforwardly said what Yang Yi used to deal with her. It turns out that teacher Mu Xiong is such a special musician. Lu Xinqi sighed. I hope that through this program teacher Mu Xiong can also recognize me. Li Man's voice is also very cute and sweet. Li Man came up again, smiled and pretended to be cute in front of the camera and said, Teacher Muziang, I also have the surname Li. We are from the same family. If I can get Teacher Muziang's favor and let him tailor a song for me, I will be very grateful. Why don't we give Man Man a chance and let her sing a complete song of Long Time No See? Let's see if she can move Mr. Muzong, okay? Chan Hang had been fascinated by Li Man Man before, and now he was trying his best to create an opportunity for Li Man Man. As a result, the conversation with Mo Fei that was supposed to continue was shortened again. Moreover, Li Man Man was asked to sing a male song. After singing the whole song, Li Man Man, who didn't prepare much, sang very badly. She was somewhat lacking in energy. Fortunately, she was experienced on the spot. Relying on acting cute, dancing and some other small tricks, she covered it up. Under Li Man Man's strong stage control, these small mistakes became the nodes for her to interact with the fans under the stage. Screams rose and fell one after another, unusually enthusiastic. Lu Xinqi waited for Li Man Man to finish singing before she brought the topic back on track. After asking the two guests some questions about music and life, she said, "Our program today is actually very lucky, because Murphy not only came to the scene, but also brought a new song composed by Teacher Mu Ziang." "Really? Teacher Mu Ziang's song? Today I must listen with all my ears." Chan Hang said, "This should be the first female song written by Mu Ziang. Let's give a round of applause. Murphy has brought us Coming Across the Sea to See You." Lu Xinqi smiled and pointed the camera to Murphy, who was standing in the center of the stage. She took Chan Hang and Li Man Man to the bottom of the stage, and the stage was given to Murphy. "It's finally coming. Sister, come on." Mo Shaowan, who was under the stage, excitedly clenched her fist. The piano accompaniment slowly sounded. The clean melody made the audience under the stage quiet down. Murphy stood in the middle of the stage, quietly, just like when she went forward. On the stage, the dry ice machine sprayed out white mist. Murphy, who was wearing a plain white dress, was like a fairy floating in the clouds and mist, beautiful beyond compare. As if waiting for something, the audience, even Li Man Man's fans, couldn't help but hold their breath. This was different from Li Man Man's lively stage atmosphere just now, but it suddenly made people feel that it was not inferior at all. The prelude came to a point. Murphy raised the microphone, as if she was in a fairyland. Her ethereal voice faintly transmitted through the microphone. "For you, I used half a year's savings, and came across the sea to see you. How does it feel to open your mouth and kneel?" Now, the audience under the stage felt that their hearts seemed to be grasped by a small hand in this beautiful voice. They really wanted to kneel down and listen. "For this gathering, I even repeatedly practice breathing when we meet." The last word, practice, the value of Murphy's voice that she had honed since childhood was reflected. It was like an echo in an empty valley, melodious and lingering in people's ears. There was an unconcealable jealous gaze under the stage. Li Man Man knew those singing skills, but she couldn't help it. She didn't have Murphy's unique voice. Even if she knew too much, even if she sang this song, she wouldn't be able to sing it this way. What's more, Murphy sang so affectionately. Others didn't know, Mo Shaowan also didn't know. Only Murphy herself knew. At this moment, she substituted her own feelings into the song, and her mind was full of Yang Yi's shadow. Even repeatedly practiced breathing when we meet. In this lyrics, wasn't it describing her current appearance? She was in a state of passionate love. In order to meet with Yang Yi, she had to carefully prepare every time. She chose clothes, put on makeup, and even began to speak carefully. She was afraid that, like before, because of a misunderstanding of academic qualifications, they would hurt each other and become unhappy. Not only this sentence. A strange city. That, like a long sigh of hidden bitterness, suddenly broke the hearts of the audience under the stage. Who knew this, condensed Murphy's bitterness? Those were the tears that she had held back and turned into resentment when she had brought up her child alone in this strange city without family and friends in Jiang City. However, being strong was actually exchanged for the joy of happiness now, so obviously, from the slightly brisk rhythm of the next section of also comforted each other, also hugged each other and sighed. The change in Murphy's mood could be heard. Watching you go away in the sandstorm, I was so sad that I couldn't control myself. Lee Man Man looked at Murphy calmly singing a sad melody from the audience, and the jealousy in her eyes had been ignited. The quality of this song was very high. Although it was not suitable for Lee Man Man's sweet voice, Lee Man Man couldn't help but daydream. If this song could be included in her previous album, it would be at the level of the title song. Then, it should be able to continue the momentum and rush to the platinum album, right? Murphy was going to be popular. Lee Man Man could see that, no matter how other songs were, with this song Murphy was going to make a comeback. So, even if her heart was full of jealousy, her reason still told her that now was not the time to compete with Murphy. Chapter 204. Until the end of the world, I'll be with you for the rest of my life. Murphy finally finished singing the song. However, there was no warm applause. The audience was quiet, but there were already a lot of emotional audience rubbing their eyes. They were so sad that they couldn't help themselves. What a great song, I came across the sea to see you. Teacher Mu Xiang is indeed worthy of his name. I'm afraid that he wrote a classic song that is no less than Long Time No See. Chan Hang walked onto the stage with emotion. Lu Xinqi also said with emotion, yes, and indeed, Teacher Mu Xiang found the most suitable singer for this song. Murphy's performance just now was a vivid interpretation of the sadness of the song. Do you think that Murphy sang well? Naturally, the audience below the stage shouted in unison. Nice to hear. Lu Xinqi and Chan Hang were not done teasing Murphy. They laughed and said, oh Murphy, don't you want to confirm it again? Could it be that Teacher Mu Xiang wrote this song especially for you? He even came across the sea to Jiang City to see you. Mo Fei still shook her head firmly and said, no, Teacher Mu Xiang is an excellent songwriter. His inspiration for writing songs may come from his own life, right? But it can't be related to the singer. Otherwise, would Teacher Mu Xiang go to a coffee shop in Harbor City to write Long Time No See for Mr. Chen Yijie? Mo Fei just straightforwardly used Yang Yi's example to deal with her at that time, but she didn't expect that her acting skills were so good that it made Lu Xinqi and Chan Hang laugh out loud. The audience below the stage also laughed out loud. Only Mo Fei herself looked at other people inexplicably. Then again, there was a report that Murphy retired in the past few years because you married a rich businessman. Is that true? Lu Xinqi asked nosily. No such thing. Murphy shook her head. Then Murphy, have you made any progress in your relationship? After all, you've been idle for 4 or 5 years. You should think about your life, right? Chan Hang laughed. Last time there was a scandal between you and an artist in your company. Those are all rumors, Murphy said firmly. However, regarding her relationship, Murphy still hesitated for a moment and chose to remain silent. Chen Hang, what do you mean by this? Do you want to chase after our sister Murphy? At this time, Lee Man Man finally found her sense of existence and stood up to help Murphy out of her predicament. No, I'm just worried about Murphy. Chan Hang smiled. What's the hurry? Our sister Murphy is still young. We're not in a hurry to find happiness with you men. We can still enjoy the happiness brought by being single and music. Sister Murphy, don't you think I'm right? Lee Man Man also took the initiative to show her goodwill. Murphy smiled faintly and nodded. Although she could still recognize Lee Man Man's nature, they were still recording a program, so a little interaction was still necessary. What's more, Lee Man Man was right. Who said that a 30-year-old woman was old? Who said that a 30-year-old woman should hurry to find a companion? This Chen Hang, he was stirring up trouble. After returning to Rivertown, Yang Yi led a group of children and came down from the upper floor majestically. Downstairs, Guozi entertained the parents very well. He was already in front of the piano, leaning sideways and singing in unison with a few parents. Sitting on the stool, the person playing was actually Lan's Hao Kai. Among these parents, there were also hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Just now, Guazi volunteered to play the piano, but his standard was laughed off by the parents. Then Nan Zhaoyu's father, the great calligrapher Nan Yun, actually went up and showed off his skills. Nan Yun played better than Guazi. He had the standard of an amateur. When he played a classical song, he also won the applause of the audience. This time, the big boss Lan Hao Kai's hands were also itching. When I was young, I studied in the United States. I was also a little prince of piano. Lan Hao Kai boasted and went up to play for a while. His fat fingers were as dexterous as dancing elves. The coherent temperament and beautiful melody almost healed people's ears. Although Lan Xian's mother was covering her mouth and laughing, the pride in her husband's eyes was already written on her face. When Yang Yi came down with the children, Lan Hao Kai was being urged by Guazi to play a song similar to Farewell in This World. It was very old, but it just evoked the memories of this group of parents of a certain age. They all sang one after another. The parents were very happy, but the children couldn't care less. They were chattering. Shi's father, where is the delicious food you said? Lan Xian's loud voice was particularly prominent. She couldn't wait to eat. Children, can you all stand here and close your eyes first? Yang Yi smiled gently and commanded. Chen Shuyun, you have to set a good example. Shi was the most obedient. She was the first to close her eyes. She even whispered to Shi, who was holding hands with her. Chi, close your eyes. There's a surprise. When Chen Shuyun heard Yang Yi calling her, her sense of responsibility suddenly exploded. She immediately came out and helped to maintain order. Close your eyes. If Shi's father doesn't say it's okay, don't open your eyes. The adults had also finished singing and happened to see this interesting scene. They all smiled and looked at it with interest. Yang Yi and Ding Xiang were already prepared. They were just placed in the refrigerator at the back of the coffee shop. One by one, they took out the plates from the table and placed them on the table that had been set up long ago. Guazi went over to help, but it still took a little longer. Some children couldn't hold back. For example, Lan Xian, the little foodie who smelled a little meat, couldn't help but open one of her eyes and secretly observe through the gap between her fingers. However, she was immediately caught by the discipline inspector, Comrade Chen Shuyun. Lan Xian, you can't open your eyes. Not only did Chen Shuyun try hard to maintain order for Yang Yi, but she was also strict with herself. She didn't even look back. She's really so cute, a mother said with a snicker. At this time, Yang Yi had already set up. He came over and said in a rather seductive voice, "Now uncle is ready. Children, are you ready?" Yes. The answers were uneven, but they were all very powerful, especially Lan Xian's. Then it's time to witness a miracle. Children, open your eyes. Yang Yi smiled and made way for the children to open their eyes and see the colorful food in front of them. Exclamations and cheers came one after another, but the loudest voice was missing. Lan Xian was only focused on looking at the plates of grilled chicken wings, grilled squid, and grilled corn. She was swallowing her saliva, so how could she care about shouting? What are these? The shy child Nan Zhaoyu also came over. He was dazzled and didn't know how to choose. These are all desserts. The ones in front of you are puddings. There's milk pudding, strawberry pudding, caramel pudding, and this special dragon fruit pudding and mango pudding. Yang Yi smiled and introduced to the children. The dragon fruit pudding was the most beautiful. It was red and white, as if flames were layered. This was obviously the most popular among the children. They all clamored to eat it. However, the most delicious one was the mango pudding. Although it couldn't be seen from the outside, there was a great mystery inside. Yang Yi didn't want to tell them. It would only be interesting if they discovered it themselves. Chapter 205. Yang Yi had prepared more than just pudding and barbecue for the children. He had also meticulously made pastries such as pea cakes, pumpkin cakes, mango layers, and egg tarts with blueberries and cranberries. He had also made desserts such as mango sago, double skim milk, and so on. Could be said that it was beautiful and delicious. Not just the little ones, even the adults were tempted to eat. However, the children's appetites were still small. Even the little chubby girl Lan Exin was full after eating a few pieces of barbecue and drinking some sago. Just as Yang Yi was introducing the tips of making delicious food to the housewife mothers, she brought the fully fed little ones upstairs to play. She said she wanted to show them her toys. Lan Exin didn't even wipe her greasy mouth, giggling as she followed. Lan Exin's mother hurriedly called out to Ding Xiang, who was going to be a nanny for the whole day, to ask her to help her daughter wash her hands and wipe her face. The children had their own exciting stories, and the adults also had their own topics to talk about. Other than a few worried mothers who went upstairs to check on their children, the other adults were all chatting downstairs. Just as Yang Yi was dealing with the crowd, the real estate tycoon Lan Kai was eating a roasted drumstick without a care for his image while sizing up Yang Yi's shop with interest. "Brother Yang, is this coffee shop your current business? This location isn't very good." Lan Kai suddenly called out to Yang Yi, who was walking past him. He chuckled and said, "I don't mean anything else. Your shop's layout is very stylish. It's just that from a businessman's point of view, opening a shop at the entrance of Jiangqing Media University isn't a very good choice. What do you suggest, Brother Lan?" Yang Yi asked. "If you want to open a coffee shop, especially if you want to create a brand with your own unique characteristics, you have to consider the problem of your customer base. There are currently two problems with your current customer base. First, the flow of people through this back door is very low. This has greatly limited your sales from the start. Secondly, Lan Kai finally acted like a businessman this time. He said methodically, "After all, the purchasing power of students is much weaker, unless you sell cheap coffee and win by quantity. But what you are selling now is handmade coffee, so the price can't be too low. Then you should consider the white-collar workers with higher income and quality of life requirements." Lan Kai had a good impression of Yang Yi. Not only did he guide Yang Yi in his business, but he also promised him that as long as Yang Yi wanted, he could provide Yang Yi with a shop in the Binhai business district at any time and rent it to him at cost price. However, Yang Yi still declined. He revealed a little about his main profession of writing novels, then smiled and said, "Opening a coffee shop is just a personal hobby of mine. Opening it here at the university, I can enjoy peace and also freeload off the artistic atmosphere of Jiangchuan. It's not to make money." Lan Kai was not very interested in literature, so he did not pursue the matter. However, he still expressed his admiration for Yang Yi's pure heart, and even asked Yang Yi to make him a cup of coffee. "Not bad, not bad. Your culinary skills are much better than my secretary's. Granny's leg, I think I should ask him to come over and learn a thing or two from you." Lan Kai laughed loudly as he tasted the Blue Mountain coffee that Yang Yi had specially brewed for him. At this time the little guys swarmed down again. She, with a face full of excitement, ran to her father, took his hand and said expectantly, Papa, can you show us the golden cudgel like Sun Wukong?" The little girl also pouted her mouth and imitated the woo-woo sound of the cudgel. Her hand also seemed to be holding the cudgel, waving it to show her father. Yang Yi had no choice but to make an apologetic gesture to Lan Kai. Go, you don't have to entertain us. Just serve these little ancestors well." Lan Kai laughed. The shop was too crowded, so Yang Yi was surrounded by the little guys to the open space of the lawn outside the shop, holding a golden cudgel in his hand. That's right. It was no longer the poor broom. Since Yang Yi had performed it once, she liked it very much. Sometimes when she listened to the story of the journey to the west at night, she would excitedly ask Yang Yi to perform it again. Therefore, Yang Yi asked someone to custom-make such a golden cudgel, according to his figure, the corresponding proportion, and the drawing he drew. There were flowing cloud patterns on it, and it was very beautiful. "I want to play too," Chen Shiyun, who was a little violent, said with envy. "This is very, very heavy. You can't pick it up." She waved her hand and explained to her, My papa doesn't let me move it. He said it would hurt if I hit my foot. The children huddled together and giggled as they watched Yang Yi. Yang Yi didn't have stage fright. He put on a posture as if he was going to perform on stage. He first held the stick and cupped his fist to greet the audience. Hee, it's so fun. The children were happy first. Everything was so new to them. Yang Yi put on a posture and began to perform. There was no foreshadowing. As soon as he came up, he used the coolest spinning stick to attract the little guy's attention. Wow! When Yang Yi spun the stick with both hands, the windmill-like shadow of the stick made Lon Exon and the others exclaim again and again. They had never seen such a trick before. When Yang Yi began to spin the rod with one hand, he even twisted his body, switching from his right hand to his left hand. The whistling sound of the wind and the powerful aura made the little guys dazzled. Chen Shiyun screamed loudly. She was the most excited. She wished she could go on the stage and do such a cool action in place of Shishi's father. If so, she would definitely be the most popular child in the spring kindergarten. However, when Yang Yi waved the stick, the smile on his face could not be maintained. He saw the only two boys in the group of children, Nan Zhaoyu and another little boy. They could stand anywhere, but they stood beside Shishi, one on the left and one behind. What made Yang Yi's eyes spit fire was that Shishi was holding Nan Zhaoyu's hand while holding Shishi's hand. How old was he? He still wanted others to hold his hand. Wasn't he childish? Alert, level 1 alert, red alert. At this moment, Yang Yi only hated that the Jingu bang in his hand was not the green dragon crescent blade. Ahem! Yang Yi still stopped. He pretended as if nothing had happened, walked over and directed the children. Uncle is going to perform a big one later. Stand aside a little and leave a passage in the middle. Yes, come Zhaoyu and that child stand here. Shishi, stand over there with Chi-Chi. In order to let Shishi isolate the source of danger, Yang Yi even let his die-hard fan, Chen Shiyun, hold Shishi's empty hand. That was pleasing to the eye. Yang Yi calmly began his performance again. One moment, he did a black dragon circling the pillar. The next, he did a heavenly punishment. He smashed the Jingu bang on the ground. The children watched with great interest and did not notice Yang Yi's trick just now. Of course, Yang Yi really made use of the passage that had just been evacuated. He did a tiger leaping forward, somersaulting on the grass and then shading his eyes with his hands. He did a classic looking back at the moon. This posture was quite decent. Even the parents who had walked to the door to watch cheered. It's good to be young. Naniyun, who was already 50 years old, sighed. I just feel that it's a bit improper for him to jump up and down like a monkey. A parent couldn't help but mutter. Yang Guo, who was standing on the side, retorted. How can you say that it's improper? This is a monkey show. It's an art passed down from the Han Dynasty. In the long river of history, monkey performers gradually groped for it. There were similar things in this world. Don't take it seriously. Lan Cao Kai also laughed and said, whether it's an art or not, I'm now envious of Yang Yi for having such good skills. You see, he's so popular with the children. This is the achievement that parents like us dream of achieving, right? Chapter 206. I found such an excuse so that the little brat couldn't hold Shishi's hand, and he didn't even notice it. Later, when I performed, he was still happily clapping for me. At night, Yang Yi proudly showed off his cleverness to Murphy over the phone. You're really too much. Is there a need to be so vigilant? You're a 4 or 5-year-old child. You still don't know the difference between a boy and a girl. Murphy was amused by him and was in a good mood, so she rebuked him. I don't say that. Since she went to kindergarten, we have to be careful. Who knows how many sinister people there are in this world. I think when you come back we should discuss how to educate Shishi on children's sex. I'm going to buy some books to study. Yang Yi said seriously. Murphy was more influenced by Western education since she was young, so she agreed with Yang Yi's idea. The two of them talked about Mo Fei's show recording today. Mo Fei also told Yang Yi about her performance in detail. She also happily talked about how happy she was when she sang, "Coming Across the Ocean to See You," and got the audience's approval. "When will this program be broadcast? I want to see your performance." Yang Yi's interest was piqued. Although he heard Murphy sing, he hadn't heard the live version of this song. "It should be 2 weeks later on Friday night at 10 o'clock. But when you see it, you can't make fun of me for being so dull during the recording. I don't know what to say when I go on stage," Murphy said worriedly. "How can that be? Your dull appearance is the most adorable in my eyes." Yang Yi said sweet nothings. The two of them were lovey-dovey for a while. Murphy thought of something. "Yang Yi, there's something I can't figure out. Can you give me some advice?" It turned out that after the recording of the show ended, Li Manman, who was trying her best to please Murphy, stuck close to her and called her Sister Murphy and Sister Murphy sweetly. "She asked me to give her Mu Xiang's contact information. She wants to ask Mu Xiang for a song." Hearing Murphy's voice, Yang Yi could feel her pouting like a little girl who felt that her toy had been snatched away by someone else. Yang Yi secretly smiled and asked, "How did you respond to her?" "I want to refuse directly. I think Li Manman is too hypocritical." Murphy's intuition was correct this time, she said, "but she was so enthusiastic that I didn't know how to say no." "Then did you give Mu Xiang's email address to her?" "No, I'm worried that Mr. Mu Xiang will be angry. So I told Li Manman that I would go back and ask Mu Xiang." Murphy said to Yang Yi, "But I'm also worried that Mu Xiang will be too embarrassed to refuse because of my recommendation, which will affect his judgment. You can just give her the email address, it doesn't matter. Mu Xiang won't mind anyway. This email address has already been known by your company's people." Yang Yi said, "Mu Xiang will have his own judgment. You don't have to think too much, he will make the right choice." Yang Yi wanted to let Murphy make her own music without any distractions. As for Li Manman, he would take care of it all. A rejection email could solve the problem, so Murphy didn't need to worry about it. "Is this really okay?" Murphy asked worriedly. "It doesn't matter, you just tell Li Manman that you asked Mu Xiang and he said that Mu Xiang doesn't care about an email address, but whether she can get Mu Xiang's approval or not depends on her own efforts." Yang Yi taught Murphy. What effort? All the sugar-coated bullets were settled by an email. No sugar-coated bullets were eaten. However, Yang Yi ate a person's sugar-coated bullets. After Zhu Jie found out that his money order had been withdrawn, he hurriedly went to find his incompetent advisor, Du Luan. "The money has been spent. That Mu Xiang also used a new email to send me the music score and lyrics. What do you think of the song?" Du Luan asked curiously. Look, Zhu Jie didn't know how to evaluate it. Looking at the lyrics first, Du Luan's face suddenly became strange. How to say it? The title of the song was very special. Mistress. This song. Du Luan also smiled bitterly. He didn't know how to evaluate it. Du Luan, do you think this Mu Xiang deliberately cheated me of my money? He wrote such a song for me. Zhu Jie said somewhat gloomily. Finally, you became someone's mistress. Are these the lyrics for a human to sing? Jie, wait a minute, I think the lyrics are also very neat. It's quite easy to read. Let me look at the song. Du Luan comforted. Du Luan was not like Mo Shaowan. The latter relied on her relationship with Murphy to become a manager. She relied on brute force to make a name for herself in the entertainment industry. Du Luan was completely in the industry. He used to have the dream of debuting, but unfortunately when he was a trainee his talent was mediocre. He couldn't reach the standard of debuting, so he switched to being a manager. However, he still had the necessary musical literacy. He could totally sing it just by looking at the music score. After a while, Du Luan stumbled and sang a few lines. Although I didn't say it out loud, actually I already had a premonition. After carefully tasting it, Du Luan said to Zhu Jie, "From the melody, there's no problem. This is a catchphrase song, it's not difficult to sing, and it's also very nice. A song written about a mistress like this is nice. Du Luan, have you also been cheated on by someone else?" Zhu Jie's mouth was full of shit. He didn't even choose his words when talking to his own people. Du Luan's eyes flashed with a helpless anger, but he still suppressed it. He laughed and said to Zhu Jie, "Don't say that, Jie, do you want me to play this song for you?" After Du Luan's performance, Zhu Jie had a certain degree of recognition, but he was still dissatisfied. Is this Mu Xiang old and confused? The songs he wrote for Chenny Jie and Murphy are so good, but the song he wrote for me is so bad. It's not bad, it's just that the lyrics are a little special. Du Luan persuaded. It's good enough to buy this song for 3 million. If he gave you Long Time Not Seen, I wouldn't dare to let you use it. Long Time Not Seen is a song that Mu Xiang can earn at least 10 million in a few years. How would he be willing to sell it to us? If he gave you such a song, it means that he doesn't intend to use it himself. We don't have to worry about him going back on his word and suing us. What you said makes sense. Zhu Jie nodded thoughtfully. But such a song, how can I sing it? Jie, you don't understand, right? Right now you can't use normal methods to increase your popularity, but we can change the style of the song, change the operating method. And with this song, plus we'll deliberately look for the media to hype you up, packaging you as the little prince of sad love songs. You see, you won't have any competitors, you'll definitely become popular immediately. Du Luan's brain worked very quickly. Really? Zhu Jie was a little moved. He longed to become a big star. This was the motivation for him to abandon his status as a young master and work hard to learn and debut. Really? Du Luan also felt that his opportunity had come. He encouraged with all his might. Chapter 207. Young Yi was really free now. The hard-working Miao girl, Ding Xiang, had been working hard to learn how to make coffee from him since the first day of work. After a week, Ding Xiang's progress was beyond Yang Yi's expectations. Not only was she very skilled in making coffee, but she was also very familiar with all kinds of coffee beans. Just by looking at the beans and smelling them, she could basically tell the ins and outs of the beans. Therefore, Yang Yi did not hesitate to promote Ding Xiang to the position of store manager and take over the management and operation of the coffee shop. As for the old store manager, he put himself in the position of honorary store manager and only cared about opening and closing the doors leisurely. As long as Ding Xiang came to help, he would sit in his exclusive booth, happily drinking coffee and reading novels. When it became a habit for him to leave everything to others, Yang Yi even wanted to close the door when Ding Xiang had to go to class. Of course, Yang Yi would not treat Ding Xiang badly in terms of money. He directly gave her 6,000 yuan for the first month's salary, and the salary was paid in advance on the day Ding Xiang was promoted. This was not Yang Yi deliberately breaking the rules, but Guozi secretly told Yang Yi that Ding Xiang had no money and could only eat bread and pickles. He and Guozi did not want Ding Xiang to feel that they pitted her and hurt the self-esteem of this strong girl, so they found an excuse to pay her the salary in advance. Of course, after receiving the money, Ding Xiang did not spend it extravagantly. She saved most of the money and was reluctant to buy clothes. She only slightly improved the quality of her life in terms of food. Yang Yi's kindness was also reciprocated. Ding Xiang worked harder and desperately thought of how to make more money for Yang Yi. For example, she had recently been learning how to make desserts from Yang Yi. Just like last time when she and her friends had a party, Ding Xiang was inspired. Maybe adding desserts would attract more customers. In the past, Yang Yi was too lazy to mess around, and now he was too lazy to participate. He casually let Ding Xiang mess around while he sat in the booth and wrote and drew. Previously, he had discussed with Murphy the issue of their daughter's sex education. Yang Yi naturally found it difficult to talk about it himself. After they discussed it again, they decided that Murphy would be the main speaker, and Yang Yi would create rich and interesting content. Now that he was using colored pencils, of course, Yang Yi wanted to create a teaching material with pictures and text. However, when Ding Xiang walked over and saw the naked cartoon figure on Yang Yi's drawing paper, she suddenly blushed. That I'm sorry, brother Yang. I didn't see anything. Ding Xiang turned around, still wanting to flee. Yang Yi had a holy expression on his face. He didn't think that he was drawing a pornographic manga. Seeing Ding Xiang's expression, he was a little confused. He stopped Ding Xiang and asked, "What's wrong? Why are you looking for me?" Ding Xiang actually didn't want to walk back, but when she saw Yang Yi put away her drawing, she moved back with a red face. She first bowed and then said to Yang Yi hesitantly, "Brother Yang, I want to." "What do you want to do?" "It's like this. During the day, don't I often have classes and can't work properly? I want to come over at night and continue to help." Yang Yi laughed. "Didn't I say that the coffee shop isn't open at night?" "Yes, but that's because Brother Yang isn't free. Now I can help Brother Yang run the coffee shop at night. You can pick up Shi as usual and take care of her at home. It doesn't matter. I'll help take care of the shop, and I can make more money at night." Ding Xiang explained. "Money isn't a problem. If you come to work here at night, can you keep up with your studies? If it affects your studies because of a part-time job, I can't afford this responsibility." Yang Yi laughed. Ding Xiang quickly waved her hand and said, "It's no problem. I usually make the best use of my time to study. Brother Yang also allowed me to bring books to work, so I didn't fall behind in my studies. In fact, I'm already very grateful to Brother Yang. When I was busy with part-time jobs outside of school, I often had to take the bus for a long time. Sometimes I would miss classes. I had to reflect with the teacher and take other classes to make up for it. Now, part-time jobs are like a dream to me," Ding Xiang said emotionally. She was so moved that she choked up. In fact, Ding Xiang was a top student. She was the same type as Guozi. Even if she was busy working part-time all day in the last school year, she still got the first place in class and got a full national scholarship. What a terrifying existence! Yang Yi saw that Ding Xiang was so determined. He had to nod and let Ding Xiang take care of the coffee shop at night alone. "No matter what, you must close the shop before 8:30. It's too late, it's not safe." Yang Yi took out a key and gave it to Ding Xiang. He warned, "If I see you working too late, or if I know that your grades are declining, you can't open the shop at night." "Yes, thank you, Brother Yang." Ding Xiang smiled brightly. Just as Ding Xiang turned her head and was about to go back to the bar, Yang Yi's eyes fell on her body. He casually called out to her, "Ding Xiang, wait." Facing Ding Xiang's puzzled eyes, Yang Yi pointed at Ding Xiang's shirt and skirt. He was a little surprised. "Your clothes, why do I seem to have seen it yesterday?" "No, I saw it a few days ago." Until now, he still hadn't noticed what kind of scar his words had reopened. Ding Xiang bit her lips, lowered her head and said to Yang Yi, "I'm sorry, Brother Yang. I'll go back and buy 2 more sets of work clothes." The girl adjusted herself. She was still trying to find the reason from herself. She wondered if she was too reluctant to spend money. Now she was about to start the night shift. She couldn't wear a uniform during the day, wash it and dry it for tomorrow. She really had to buy 1 or 2 more sets of uniforms. Seeing Ding Xiang's embarrassment, Yang Yi finally understood. He quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, "That's not what I meant. I just suddenly remembered that since you're working in a coffee shop, I should also give you a few sets of uniforms. This is a coffee shop. There are uniforms." Ding Xiang was surprised. "Of course there are uniforms," Yang Yi said matter-of-factly. He had already thought of the uniform design. It was very beautiful. "But I've never seen Brother Yang wear it." "Oh." Yang Yi was speechless for a moment. He stammered, "That's because I'm the big boss. I don't need to wear a uniform. You workers have to wear it." "B. How much do I have to pay for the custom-made uniform?" Ding Xiang gave in and asked weakly. Just now, she wanted to buy a cheaper uniform. "Money. It's not your money. This is a benefit of the shop." Yang Yi smiled and waved his hand. "Tell me the size of your clothes. I'll send it to you when it's done. If we recruit new people in the future, we'll make it according to this style." Previously, when Yang Yi had custom-made clothes for himself and Cece to practice swordsmanship, he had met an old tailor with superb craftsmanship. The tailor specialized in custom-made clothes in the wealthy district. The materials used were better than those on the market, and of course the price was not cheap. The problem was that it was comfortable to wear. Money was not a problem for Yang Yi. Since he was going to make uniforms, Yang Yi decided to personally draw the design and let the old tailor help him make it. Chapter 208. What's the use of raising you people? You can't even do a proper promotion. Boss, it's not that we don't work hard, but the chain bookstore doesn't cooperate, and the state-owned bookstore doesn't allow it. We can't do a good promotion. Just as the planners of Sahara Publishing House were frowning over the low sales figures of Shi's fairy tales, a book review quietly appeared on the literary page of the Guangdong Evening News. Parents and teenagers who had been paying attention to Yu Qian's close sister column were surprised to find that in this issue, Yu Qian did not give examples to discuss the ignorant emotional problems between teenagers. Instead, she extended the discussion to the current situation of children's literature through the evaluation of a fairy tale book. Fairy tales are written for children under the age of 10. They don't need mature writing, adult psychological portrayals, or realistic story plots. A little dreamy story structure can trigger children's fantasies and leave them with good childhood memories. I think it can be regarded as a storybook that is worth buying for children to read. The Shi's bedtime stories, written by Mr. Yang Yi, has such characteristics. The characters in it are rich and colorful. They're not only princesses and princes that children want to be, but also cute characters that are anthropomorphized by animals. It greatly enriches children's imaginations. In this book, I especially admire a story called The Three Little Pigs. The author used a humorous style to describe the battle of wits and courage between the little pigs and the big bad wolf. What's interesting is that in this story, not only do we gain joy, but we can also let children understand some principles. For example, don't simply believe in the words of strangers, and don't procrastinate when doing things. Only by being hardworking, smart, and witty can you achieve success. Yu Qian expressed her regret and hope for the current situation of children's literature. At the same time, she strongly praised Yang Yi's Shi's bedtime stories. Regardless of whether they were Yu Qian's fans or not, after seeing her introduction, as long as they had children at home, they were eager to go to the bookstore to see if this book was really as good as Yu Qian said. Unknowingly, the sales of Shi's bedtime stories showed signs of rising. However, the time was too short and the data was not obvious. Even the staff of Sahara Publishing in Guangdong Province did not notice this change. By the time they noticed it, it was already too late. 2 days later, Guozi came to the coffee shop to give Yang Yi the admission ticket and invite him and Shi to watch his performance at the freshman party. Yang Yi happened to come back with the custom-made uniform for Ding Xiang. "Aren't you going to invite me to have a look?" Ding Xiang asked Guozi with a smile. "It's my idea." Fine, if you want to go, you can go yourself. No one will stop you. My big brother Yang is not a student. Without this kind of admission ticket, you can't get in." Guozi waved his hand and said. "Besides, senior sister, how can you have time to go to the party? Don't you have to look after the shop for brother Yang at night?" "That's true." Yang Yi looked at the crudely made admission ticket with great interest. When he heard the conversation between Guozi and Ding Xiang, he waved his hand and said, "Let's go together. What's the point of opening the shop? I'll give you a day off that night." It was happily decided. Guozi picked up the uniform excitedly, turned it over and over, and said with some regret, "Sigh, big brother Yang, it's so boring. I thought you were going to design it into a sailor uniform or a student uniform. Why are you touching it? It's wrinkled." Ding Xiang blushed and grabbed it, but her skin was a little dark, so even if she blushed, it couldn't be seen. "Big brother Yang, don't listen to him. If it was really that kind of clothes, I wouldn't dare to wear it." Yang Yi smiled and said in his heart, "I also wouldn't dare to make it for you." Yang Yi told Murphy that he hired a female shop assistant. Murphy saw Ding Xiang's photo. This dark and thin girl didn't feel threatening, so she didn't say anything. She just told Yang Yi that she wanted to find a chance to meet this independent and strong Miao girl. Now that Ding Xiang was also looking after the store at night, the next time Mo Fei came over, the two of them would definitely meet each other. But if Yang Yi ordered those clothes for Ding Xiang that would make men's imaginations run wild, Mo Fei would probably also have some weird thoughts when she saw them. Then Yang Yi would have to sleep on the sofa at night. Put it on and see. Since it's already done, why are you shy? Quickly put it on and see. Guizi urged Ding Xiang. Ding Xiang had no choice but to be pestered by him. With a red face, she carried a set of uniform to the bathroom at the back of the coffee shop to change. Yang Yi had ordered a total of 3 sets for her. The other 2 sets were winter coats with cashmere lining, which were very comfortable to touch. Guizi and Ding Xiang had been quarreling and fooling around all this time. Yang Yi didn't participate. He quietly read a book, which was one of the more famous mystery novels in this world. But after a while, Guizi's shouting broke his concentration. Ding Xiang walked out, but she was no longer the dark and thin girl who didn't stand out in the crowd. The black and red coffee shop uniform made her look a little different. The uniform was a tight short-sleeved shirt with a standing collar, paired with a waist-tight skirt that didn't reach her knees. But it was different from ordinary formal wear. The shirt was made of black, smooth, high-end fabric, with 4 vertical red buttons. The skirt was also sewn with exquisite craftsmanship, which made it look like an apron. One side was black and the other side was red. The contrast was very clear. Interestingly, the skirt was sewn with 2 pockets that could be used to hold hands, as well as a notebook and small change. It was very practical and very useful. Of course, it wasn't just these 2. The entire set also included a red beret. It was a design that was between a beret and a chef's hat. It wasn't too mischievous, but it also had a special feature that made one's face look like a peach blossom. The clothes were secondary. What surprised Guizi was Ding Xiang, who was wearing the uniform. Ding Xiang's skin was originally dark, but under the contrast of the black uniform, her skin looked a little fairer. The tight-fitting shirt and waist-tight skirt suited a girl like Ding Xiang who had a petite figure, and it instantly added a little charm to her. Although she still had a slightly ordinary face and rough skin without any care, Ding Xiang, who had changed into the new uniform, had a shy look on her face. At that moment she really had a different kind of beauty. My brother Yang's talent is really indescribable. After making a fuss, Guizi went up to Ding Xiang and looked her up and down. He laughed and said, "But senior, I suggest you perm your hair a little, leave a few curls on both sides of your cheeks, and wear a hat. I guarantee that someone will send you flowers to confess to you tomorrow." "Go away, I don't want to perm my hair. How much damage would a perm do to the hair? And it's so expensive." Ding Xiang chased Guizi away. "Don't bother me, I have to work." Chapter 209. Although the newly recorded episode of Fast Music hadn't been broadcasted yet, the news that Murphy sang Mu Xiang's new song had already spread. Many entertainment media also reported that Mu Xiang had written 12 songs for Murphy. This was still quite shocking. Some entertainment tabloid reporters even went to Chen Yijia's house specifically for this matter. Chen Yijia, who was wearing big pants and a loose t-shirt, was a little confused as he prepared to go shopping with his wife. Mu Xiang, the songwriter who worked with you before, has now written a song for Murphy. What do you think? This question was a bit like asking an aggrieved daughter-in-law with evidence of her adultery. Fortunately, Chen Yijia was used to dealing with these reporters. He immediately reacted and smiled. "Of course, this is a good thing. If this rumor is true, then I'm happy for Murphy. Mr. Mu Xiang's songs are very good, and Miss Murphy is also a singer with a very good singing foundation. I also like them very much and look forward to their cooperation. Mu Xiang wrote 12 songs for Murphy, but only 2 songs for you. No, it should only be 1.5 songs. Chinija, do you feel betrayed? The tabloid reporter continued to ask. Chinija's temper was very good. He smiled and said, "How can that be? A songwriter doesn't only work for one singer, not to mention Mr. Mu Xiang. Such an excellent songwriter. He naturally received a lot of invitations. Of course, I still want to tell Mr. Mu Xiang that if there are any good male songs, you must leave some for me. I don't want 12 songs. One song is enough to make me very happy. Although I don't have any plans to release a new album, it's better to be prepared." Chinija's participation made Murphy's new song set off a lot of waves. Many fans of Mu Xiang and Chinija, as well as some fans of Murphy who had previously given up, paid attention to this series of news. They were all looking forward to the broadcast of this episode of the program. What kind of sparks would there be from the cooperation between Murphy and Mu Xiang? In Shanghai, Li Manman had let her manager review the email countless times. She had to consider every word carefully before she sent out the email recommending herself to Mu Xiang. The email was full of sincerity. Not only did she introduce herself, but she also talked about her admiration for Mu Xiang. She also attached a few of Li Manman's representative songs. Of course, the audio files were by no means at the level of a recording studio. It was even more exaggerated than the album she had released. "Sister E, do you think this will work?" Li Manman worriedly asked her agent. Yi was her 6th manager. She was also the top manager that the company had arranged for her after she had started to climb up the ladder. She pushed up her gold-rimmed glasses and smiled faintly. "Of course it can be done. You have to take it one step at a time. You don't have to rush. Build a relationship with Mu Xiang first, then slowly ask him for songs." That's right. With Ichi's guidance, Li Manman deleted her intention of asking Mu Xiang to write songs for her in the email. She only sent her audio files and asked Mu Xiang to point out her shortcomings. She didn't ask for anything else. Ichi analyzed from the current news about Mu Xiang. She felt that Mu Xiang wasn't a person who was greedy for money and honor. If Li Manman was too anxious, it would cause Mu Xiang to dislike her. "Manman, Sister E doesn't need to tell you. This is the same as fishing for rich men. We women can't shamelessly stick to them. If we are too anxious, it will backfire. Even if we succeed, the man won't know how to cherish it." Ichi held Li Manman's seductive face and said with a smile, "On the contrary, if you're more reserved and give him vague hints, you'll satisfy a man's vanity. Instead, he'll chase after you like a cat that smells fish. At that time, won't you be able to do whatever you want to him?" Li Manman revealed a sweet smile. She didn't know whether she was disdainful or grateful. But at this moment, she was like an ignorant girl who was being guided. She smiled shyly and happily. "Yes, that's right. Those men who haven't seen the world will definitely be fascinated by you," Ichi said with a smile. In a large conference room in the Student Activity Center of Jiang City Media University, a group of students were enthusiastically discussing the program arrangement of the freshman party. The number of singing programs reported is 40% more than the dancing and musical instrument programs. Only 3 programs are small categories. This won't do. If all of them are singing, then the content of our party will be too homogeneous. After a clear but somewhat dignified voice sounded, the buzzing discussion in the conference room stopped. If Guazi was involved, he would definitely recognize that the girl who spoke was the beautiful senior sister Du Yuanlei that he yearned for day and night. Director Du, but after all, this party is organized by the students themselves. Except for those who major in instrumental music, performance and so on, the rest of the students are inclined towards singing. This is normal. As for the skit program, it's already good that we have 3 programs. In previous years there was only 1. A boy next to her said. Director Du, that's right. Du Yuanlei was the director of this freshman party. Although she was also a freshman, she had already studied directing for 4 years at Jiang City Media University. In the past, she had directed many parties, student movies, and even directed a small documentary that was on a certain satellite TV. It could be said that no one would question her qualifications. When we make programs, we have to constantly strive for perfection in order to achieve breakthrough results. If we always use the previous results as a comparison and relax our requirements, it will only get worse and worse. Du Yuanlei said coldly. She usually liked to observe and didn't speak much, but when she directed, she was very fierce. Suddenly, everyone else was silent. Huarao, go and discuss with the people in charge of these 3 programs. See if they can combine their performers to sing together. Xiao Yan, find a drama teacher and ask them to help pick a few talented students to perform a play. And Liao Chaoyi, don't you know magic? You can come up with a program. Du Yuanlei arranged without hesitation. Huatao and Xiao Yan quickly nodded, but Liao Chaoyi hesitated. Is there a problem? Du Yuanlei looked over. Liao Chaoyi was stared at by her almond eyes and suddenly felt a sense of suffocation. He quickly waved his hand and said, No problem. That's good. Xiao Yan, go and ask the piano major. Ask a piano player to cooperate with Liao Chaoyi, but performing magic is too monotonous. Yes. Everyone agreed in unison. As for who suggested letting Thousand Mile Creek do a warm-up program, Du Yuanlei looked around. A girl raised her hand weakly and said softly, Actually, it's fine if we don't invite them. After all, they are not freshmen and they only know how to sing. No, we have to invite them. I know the group Thousand Mile Creek. Invite them to come and sing their representative work. Du Yuanlei smiled. As a student group recently signed by an entertainment company, everyone's expectations for them should be high. Chapter 210. It's beautifully written. Use a little more effort when you draw the turning point. At the Yang family's dining table, Yang Yi was teaching his daughter how to write in her notebook. Recently, because the children had basically adapted to the kindergarten life, the teachers also began this semester's curriculum. Of course, it was not very complicated, just learning how to write. Starting from the stroke and the press, starting from the Arabic numerals, the children began to come into contact with the field of words. However, what made Cici a little unhappy was that the teachers also began to give her homework after class. Although it was not much, just copying 2 pages of the strokes that she had learned today, it was undoubtedly an unacceptable shackle for the little girl who could play happily and even watch TV when she went home. Papa, I'm tired of writing, can you help me write? The little girl looked at her father pitifully and said coquettishly. At this moment, the little girl's thought must be, I'm not happy, I just don't want to do homework. No, how can you let your father do your homework for you? You told your father the day before yesterday that Teacher Mu taught you a word. What is it? Yang Yi somewhat ruthlessly refused. He pretended not to see Shi's big watery eyes full of grievances. It's integrity. She pouted and unhappily said. Then if your father did your homework for you, She would have deceived Teacher Mu, right? Is it a sign of dishonesty? Yang Yi asked. Although she was unwilling, she still pouted and nodded. So, you have to finish your homework by yourself. Yang Yi lovingly rubbed the little girl's head and said, When you finish your homework, I'll draw a duckling for you in your notebook, okay? This was a classic example of giving a carrot after a stick, but Cici liked it very much. Really? The little girl looked at her father in surprise. Of course. And I'll draw it on the page where you finished your homework. Yang Yi said with a smile. He knew his daughter's little thoughts. The little girl especially liked to show off her father. She would tell her good friends anything good about her father. A small cartoon could also satisfy the little girl's vanity. Papa, can you draw one more? Are you going to draw this one too? She looked at Yang Yi expectantly and pointed at the half-written page. Yang Yi had held the little fellow's hand and taught her to write. Well, it's possible, but that depends on whether she is serious about her homework. In the middle you can't look left and right, and you can't write carelessly. You have to write well. Then, Daddy will draw you a sunflower that can spit out a small sun. Yang Yi laughed. Then Papa, Tell Mom that I'm going to do my homework. Don't disturb Shishi. The little girl was suddenly full of energy and kept pushing her father. Say what? Murphy just came out of the shower. She was wearing a spaghetti strap nightdress. Her hair was wet, and the cotton spaghetti strap was wet and dry. Today was only Thursday, but because Jin Ming had something to do tomorrow, he had to go to school to attend a parent-teacher meeting for his son, who was in the first year of high school. In addition, Murphy was busy recording the program last weekend and had no time to accompany Shishi. Murphy simply gave both of them 2 days off and went back to the company on Sunday to continue recording songs. Let's talk about Shishi learning to write. Yang-yi stood up, took Murphy's soft shoulder and said with a gentle smile, "Let's go to the balcony and chat. Don't disturb Shishi." Why? I want to see Shishi do her homework. Murphy was a little confused. Oh, don't disturb me. You can't write well. The little girl pouted and twisted her little mouth. She wanted to finish writing well and then let her father draw on it. Murphy had to let Yang-yi take her hand and go to the balcony to talk. She was still worried about her daughter. How is she doing in kindergarten? Can she keep up with the writing lessons? Don't worry about that. Shishi's performance has always been very good. Teacher Mu often praises Shishi to me, saying that she is well-behaved and smart, and that she learns to write very quickly. Yang-yi shrugged and said, I guess it's because Shishi can draw, unlike other children who have to start learning from holding a pen. That's great. When Murphy heard the good news about her daughter, her slightly cold face couldn't help but smile. When she worked outside, Murphy was used to being cold and aloof. Only when she came home could she smile with Yang-yi. But don't praise her too much. This little girl is a little arrogant. She wants to act like a spoiled child when doing homework, Yang-yi said to Murphy. In the room, Shishi was writing seriously. Yang-yi and Murphy were talking and looking at her. The little girl's appearance when she pursed her lips and wrote hard was also very cute. By the way, didn't you say that you hired a female student to help you take care of the coffee shop, and she also worked hard to open the shop at night for you? Murphy said and turned the topic to Ding Xiang. Yes, when I picked you up just now. Didn't you already see Ding Xiang from afar? No, I just remembered when I saw Shishi doing her homework. I was a little worried about her studies. She has to help you take care of the coffee shop at night. What about her own studies? Murphy said. Yang-yi had no choice but to explain it to Mo Fei. He also listed a few times when there were fewer guests. Anyway, I don't intend to be very strict with her. As long as she does her usual work well, she can read books or even do something else during this time. From what you said, I feel that she is a very good girl. Murphy held Yang-yi's arm, and the two leaned against the railing and let the night wind blow. Yes, Ding Xiang is a good child. I heard from Guazi that her family is very poor in the mountains, and she has to earn money to pay for her tuition. When I took Shishi to the temple fair before, I saw her selling cotton candy. She is also very frugal. Before I ordered a uniform for her, she would wear a decent set of clothes over and over again. Yang-yi sighed with emotion to Murphy. Well, it just so happens that my coffee shop is getting more and more customers, and I need someone to help me. Guizi also recommended Ding Xiang to me. I happen to know her before and I know that this girl is not bad, so I invited her to work here. I also want to help her by giving her more money. You help Ding Xiang and she is also helping you. What's more, by doing good deeds and accumulating good karma, you might even accumulate good karma for Shishi. This is a good thing. Murphy's mother was a Buddhist, and she was more or less influenced by it. She held Yang-yi's hand and said emotionally. Yang-yi smiled. He didn't believe in Buddhism, but he also felt that Murphy was right. The concept of doing good deeds and accumulating good karma, in the words of the internet from his previous life, was to accumulate karma. Has Ding Xiang gone back now? Murphy held Yang-yi's wrist and looked at the time. It was already past 8:30. She said with some regret. I still want to see this girl. I don't know if I will have the chance tomorrow. Yang Yi also mentioned Guazi, but Murphy had no interest in that little fatty. She still wanted to see Ding Xiang. After all, Ding Xiang was a girl. Yang Yi also looked at his watch and said with a smile, "We close at 8:30. It is now 8:40. Ding Xiang definitely hasn't left. She must be cleaning. This girl, I told her many times to go back early, but she wouldn't listen." Chapter 211. When Yang Yi and Murphy returned to the living room, Shishi had also finished her homework. The little girl ran to her father with the book as if she was presenting a treasure. "I've finished it. I'm super serious." Shishi looked at her father expectantly, hoping to get his praise. Yang Yi took the exercise book and appreciated the full page of his daughter's handwriting with Murphy. The little girl did write very seriously. Not only did she try to imitate the examples that her father taught her, but she also wrote a few small squares that were not perfunctory. After all, it was just a stroke. Murphy couldn't appreciate it, but she was very happy with her daughter's performance. She immediately bent down to pick up Shishi and kissed her daughter's face. She smiled and said, "Yes, Mom is very happy to see such a serious attitude. You wrote very well. Dad will come up later and draw for you, okay?" Yang Yi also kissed Shishi's other face. She was kissed by her parents on both sides. Shishi held her two little cheeks that were kissed by her parents. She was overflowing with happiness. The little girl smiled happily. How could she still care about painting? Shishi put her arms around her mother's neck and followed them downstairs. She asked curiously, "Where are we going?" "We're going to the coffee shop," Murphy said. I don't want to go to the coffee shop. I don't like coffee." The little girl pouted and said she actually wanted to watch TV. The little girl took a long time to do her homework. "I didn't ask you to drink coffee. Mom just wants to see the sister Ding Xiang you mentioned." Murphy laughed. "Oh, then I want to play. Sister Ding Xiang is very nice. Last time I took Xiao Guai down, she helped me catch Xiao Guai." She giggled. Yang Yi guessed right. Ding Xiang was still cleaning. In order to save electricity, she turned off the rows of lights, leaving only dim yellow lights. "Big brother Yang, Shishi, this is..." Ding Xiang heard movement at the door and came out with a mop. When she saw Murphy, she was stunned, but she didn't dare to say her guess out loud for fear of making a mistake. "Sister Ding Xiang, this is my mom." Shishi rushed to introduce her. "Yes, my lover, Murphy." Yang Yi nodded. Murphy glanced at Yang Yi. She wasn't used to the way Yang Yi addressed her, but she didn't explain. Instead, she smiled and nodded at Ding Xiang. "Hello, Ding Xiang. I've heard about you from Yang Yi many times." Sure enough, she was the lady boss. Ding Xiang hurriedly greeted Murphy and carefully called her lady boss. This girl wasn't ignorant. She was also a little nervous about whether she would be hostile to Murphy because she was a girl and lose this well-paid job. However, she was still too worried. When Mo Fei saw her thin and small appearance, and her slightly ordinary appearance, the guard in her heart that was not high in the first place had been completely lowered. "You call Yang Yi Big Brother Yang, but you call me Lady Boss?" Based on the story Yang Yi told before, Murphy had a good impression of Ding Xiang. She smiled and said softly, "You can also call me Sister Fei." "Well, hello, Sister Fei." Ding Xiang nodded and said. She hadn't recognized Murphy yet. After all, she didn't have any concept of an entertainment star. Murphy put down the impatient Shishi and let her play by herself. Then she took Ding Xiang's hand and said gently, "Ding Xiang, give the mop to Yang Yi. You've been working hard all day. Take a rest." Yang Yi didn't care very much. He used to clean once a day. He took the mop that Ding Xiang refused to let go and went to the toilet to change the water. "Papa, I'll help you." She followed him, and her pleasant voice echoed in the empty coffee shop. "What can you help me with?" "Well, help Papa get water." "Carry a bucket." "Well, I'll carry it with you." Mo Fei withdrew her gaze from her daughter. She looked at Ding Xiang and asked curiously, Ding Xiang, your name sounds like Ding Xiang from Lilac Flower. If it weren't for Yang Yi telling me that you're from Xiangxi, I wouldn't have recognized you. Yes, many people think it's lilac when they hear my name for the first time. Ding Xiang smiled shyly. Then someone asked me if I like lilac. Then do you like lilac? Murphy asked with interest. How would I know what lilac looked like before? Now I know, but I don't like it very much. I think its color is too bright. Ding Xiang said. In fact, there are many kinds of lilac. The bright colors should be red and blue. As far as I know, the lilac in the capital is very beautiful. The flowers are yellow like the stars in the sky. There are also local lilac in Kaiyun province, and another white variety called Buddha's hand lilac are very beautiful. When Murphy talked about flowers, she was really full of enthusiasm. The two stood by the piano hand in hand and chatted for a long time. Ding Xiang had already diligently wiped the table. Yang Yi didn't take long to clean the rest of the floor with Shi's help. After asking Shi to wash her hands, Yang Yi let her out. What are you talking about? We're talking about Ding Xiang's major. Their electronic media major is a bit interesting. Not only do they have to learn media courses, but they also have to learn programming. It's different from the content of the media major students recruited by our company. Murphy said. Electronic media, that's the future trend. Yang Yi inadvertently revealed a secret, but Ding Xiang didn't know about it, and Mo Fei was not interested. Oh right. Yang Yi suddenly remembered that Murphy was going to open a studio in the future. An idea floated up and he asked, Ding Xiang, do you have any students in your major who have a high level of programming or who have done website design? There should be, right? I haven't learned any deeper knowledge, but there should still be some seniors who have a better grasp of it. Ding Xiang said. What are you going to do? Murphy asked curiously. I just have an idea. If there is such a talent, I want to invest some money in it and do a project. Yang Yi smiled and said to Murphy. Murphy suddenly lost interest. She didn't interfere with Yang Yi's idea of spending money. Then I'll go back later and ask for Big Brother Yang. I have a senior sister in the student union. She knows a lot of people. She will definitely be able to help you find the talent you want. Ding Xiang promised seriously. It doesn't matter. Just do your best. At worst, I'll go to Shanghai and find a comprehensive university to recruit people. Yang Yi waved his hand indifferently. Well, we can't talk anymore. It's too late. It's not safe for Ding Xiang to go back. You'll have to work too late in the future. When it's time to close the shop, Yang Yi doesn't lack money. Murphy said to Ding Xiang with concern. It's okay. It's really okay. In fact, the campus is quite safe. Ding Xiang gratefully said to Murphy. Chapter 212. Maybe it was because it was dark or maybe she was too nervous. It was not until the next day when Mo Fei, who came back from sending Cici to school in the morning, took the opportunity to play the piano in the coffee shop that she suddenly remembered. Oh, Sister Fei. Aren't you that? Ding Xiang couldn't remember. She quickly ran to the shelf next to the bar and took down an album. Yes, this is the singer. Every day when cleaning, she learned from Yang Yi and used a feather duster to sweep the dust off the shelf. Naturally, she had seen Murphy many times. No wonder she felt that she was familiar. Yes, but you can't tell anyone. Mo Fei stopped his hands and smiled. In fact, she had foreseen that Ding Xiang would have such a reaction, but she didn't expect Ding Xiang's reaction to be so long. Definitely not. Ding Xiang quickly waved her hand and raised her finger to swear. I will never tell anyone. If I do, then. Okay, don't be so serious. Murphy smiled and held the girl. It's not a big deal. We just don't want others to know because we are afraid that it will affect our peaceful life. Ding Xiang quickly nodded. However, this matter obviously couldn't be hidden from another person. Guizi. This guy ran to the coffee shop excitedly after class in the morning to find Yang Yi. Brother Yang Yi, let me tell you, the program of our freshman party has been adjusted. My program wasn't merged with the director, and I can continue to sing solo. Guess who the director is? Who is the director? As Yang Yi spoke, he glanced at Murphy, who was arranging flowers in the shop with Ding Xiang. He lowered his voice and said to Guozi, "Remember, don't tell anyone that I am Mu Xiang. I didn't say that. I just let it slip last time and let senior sister know." Guozi was confused, but he still lowered his voice and said, "Just remember." Yang Yi nodded. Ding Xiang, I told her before. Although Ding Xiang saw Yang Yi choose songs for Guozi and knew that Yang Yi had written songs, she really didn't know anything about the entertainment industry. After recognizing Murphy in the morning, she didn't connect the two things, which gave Yang Yi the opportunity to tell her in private. However, Ding Xiang didn't think too much about it. She didn't have the most basic idea of what songs Murphy had sung and who wrote those songs. She just did whatever the boss told her to do. After whispering to each other, Yang Yi nudged Guozi and asked, "Who's the director you mentioned?" "Oh, that director is Du Yuanlei, the graduate student senior sister that I like. Wow, she is so handsome. Big brother Yang, you don't know, when I saw her this morning, my heart almost jumped out of my chest." Guozi said, "I think that she didn't combine my songs because she is interested in me." Yang Yi was a little speechless about his narcissism. "What do you mean?" Ding Xiang and Murphy heard the commotion and came over. Ding Xiang asked curiously, "No, I mean that today's class is boring." Guozi thought that the song he was going to sing was also written by Yang Yi. He was afraid that he would make mistakes if he said too much, so he quickly changed his words. "This is Guozi Murphy, a friend that I told you about. And this is she's mother, Murphy." Yang Yi introduced Murphy and Guozi. Yang Yi didn't mean it, but Murphy still cared a little about the change of address. She felt a little bitter in her heart. But fortunately, Guozi was a boy, so Murphy didn't think too much about it. She just nodded to Guozi. "Hello." Guozi was stunned when he heard Yang Yi introduce Murphy. He was not Ding Xiang. When he looked carefully at Murphy's appearance, he recognized her. Then Yang Yi's words kept flashing in his mind. "This is she's mother." She's mother. Guozi took a deep breath and asked hesitantly, "Sister-in-law, is sister-in-law really Murphy?" "Yes, she is the owner of so many discs on Brother Yang's shelf. Sister Fei is a star." Ding Xiang introduced to Guozi. "But don't tell anyone. It will bring trouble to Brother Yang and Sister Fei." Mo Fei was overjoyed by the way Guozi addressed her. A smile appeared on her face as she said, "That's right." Guozi quickly nodded. However, a slightly strange light flashed in his eyes. He looked at Murphy for a while, then looked at Yang Yi for a while. Murphy noticed Guozi's gaze and was a little puzzled. However, she didn't think too much about it. She thought that Guozi was surprised by her relationship with Yang Yi. After all, there was still a gap in status. At this time, the wind chime at the door made a pleasant sound. A guest had arrived. Murphy quickly apologized and sat back in her more secluded booth. Ding Xiang also helped Murphy and actively greeted the guest to cover for Murphy. Guozi finally had time. He couldn't hold back his words. He immediately pulled Yang Yi to the side and said apologetically, "Brother Yang, I didn't know that Murphy was sister-in-law. When she returned and the album's results were bad, I thought it was funny. I'm sorry. This guy could be quite straightforward sometimes. It's okay. I didn't know before." Yang Yi smiled and didn't care. "But Brother Yang, you are so good at writing songs. Why didn't you write a few songs for sister-in-law? And you hit it. Is it because you only write songs for male voices? It doesn't matter. If you explain it to sister-in-law clearly, she won't mind, right?" Guozi frowned. What he really wanted to say was this. "It's not this problem. I hid this identity for a reason. It's just that I can't tell you this reason." Yang Yi smiled at Guozi. "But how do you know that I didn't write songs for her? Did you? But didn't Mu Xiang only write songs for Chen Yijie?" Guozi was confused. "Go back and watch the entertainment news." Yang Yi patted Guozi's head and walked away with a smile. Guozi was busy preparing the song for the freshman party recently. He even borrowed Yang Yi's guitar to practice. How could he have the time to watch the entertainment news? Just when he went back to the dormitory with a confused face and used the computer to search on the internet, he saw that some portals reposted the news of Murphy singing Mu Xiang's new song, Crossing the Sea to See You. Just by looking at the name, I feel that it's very romantic, Guozi muttered. He scrolled down with the mouse and his eyes almost popped out. Wow, he wrote 12 songs. This is secretly spreading dog food. Guozi didn't know that he was the only one who ate this special dog food. But I don't know why Brother Yang hid it from Sister Murphy, Guozi secretly muttered. But I think this guy is very pretentious, he. Chapter 213. Yang Yi didn't plan to open the shop on the weekend, but he couldn't resist the request of Ding Xiang, who wanted to repay him. Hence, the coffee shop on the corner of the street still hung up its signboard on the weekend. However, Ding Xiang didn't forget about Yang Yi's request. She used the rest time at noon and at night to compile a list of technical and design experts with Mao Peifu. Of course, the consent of the person involved had to be obtained. The process was a little more complicated, but on Monday they sorted out the list and gave it to Yang Yi. Mao Peifu also followed. This girl's aura was different when she appeared. She was energetic and did things cleanly. This is the list, and this stack is the photocopies of some of their award-winning works. But can I ask what kind of project Mr. Yang wants to do? Mao Peifu asked directly. Ding Xiang was a little afraid that her senior sister would have a conflict with Brother Yang. She pulled Mao Peifu's sleeve worriedly. It's okay. It's not that I can't say it. I mainly want to make 2 websites. Both are social networking sites, but different types of social networking sites. Yang Yi waved his hand. He took out a stack of printed paper and handed it to Mao Peifu. He smiled and said, I have drawn the general framework for you. Then I need your people to join my project and help me make this idea into a reality. Yang Yi revealed a lot of details in the proposal he gave to Mao Peifu, but he wasn't afraid of leaking it because this perfect concept had been registered with the Copyright Association. Others couldn't touch it. Of course, although the Copyright Association in this world had complete protection, not just anyone could register their ideas as a patent. This kind of concept patent had a very high threshold. Yang Yi had almost written the complete framework and internal function division in detail before he could apply for this concept patent. Although the proposal given to Mao Peifu could be said to be used by someone who wanted to make the product he originally wanted, it didn't matter. The Copyright Association could completely protect Yang Yi's rights. Mao Peifu opened the stack of proposals. First, she was shocked by the 2 websites that Yang Yi had drawn. She couldn't help but read out the 2 names. Micro-broadcasting and Facebook? Yes, one is a social networking site to share real-time short messages, and the other is a social networking site with a personal homepage. The latter is a bit similar to a personal blog, but it's simpler to operate and more focused on its social function. Yang Yi nodded. She didn't know why, but when Mao Peifu flipped through the proposal and looked carefully at the introduction of each function, she felt that a new world was appearing in front of her eyes. Her strong heart couldn't help but set off waves. Mao Peifu secretly clenched her fist, but she still held back her excitement. She first cautiously asked Yang Yi, Mr. Yang, this project is really good, but I want to know how much money can you invest in it? The question she asked was actually a bit beyond her current identity. However, Mao Peifu thought more, and she couldn't care less about Ding Xiang's anxious eyes. Yang Yi didn't have to say it, but he didn't care. He said, I will invest 8 million in the beginning, which includes the staff salary, bonus, and the initial operation and promotion costs. Then, if there is a certain effect, I will add another 10 million or even more. At present, he could only take out 8 million, and this was the largest round number he could take out after the money from the sale of the TV series copyright of the 2 books and the income from other copyrights. After deducting the monthly donation to Zhu Luyan's Hope Primary School project and the usual expenses at home, This amount of money, if thrown into the internet, wouldn't even make a splash. However, it was enough for the construction of the 2 websites and the initial server purchase costs. What's more, Young E directly gave them a perfected product that had been modified and innovated countless times, reducing the project team's fumbling and bumping into a wall. Perhaps there would be a surplus of 8 million in the initial investment. The pie that Yang Yi drew made Mao Peifu completely convinced. Although her family background was good, this girl still wanted to have a certain career and achievements to prove herself. I also want to join this project. I can help you manage the personnel and help you deal with the public relations issues. Mao Peifu looked at Yang Yi eagerly. I don't want a salary now. Then what do you want? I want a future option commitment. After all, he wasn't familiar with Mao Peifu. Of course, Yang Yi wouldn't give her a commitment right away, but he still gave Mao Peifu a chance to participate. In the follow-up work, Mao Peifu's management ability, which had been influenced by her family since childhood and honed by the work of the student union, gradually showed itself. The division of the 2 tasks of the project, the personnel arrangement, and the time control were all sorted out in an orderly manner by her. Not only that, under her management, the immature or careless college students worked well with each other. Even if there were occasional small disputes, there were no major problems. Naturally, Mao Peifu also won the option commitment of a future startup company for herself. Of course, this was all in the future. After finalizing the 2 websites, micro-broadcasting and Facebook, Yang Yi had a headache because of his daughter's complaints. It's so difficult to write, Papa. Why is Shishi's name so difficult to write? The little girl held her small cheeks, pouted, and sat in front of the newly bought children's desk, sulking. Chi-Chi and Chen Shuyun's names are not difficult to write. After learning the strokes for a week, the teachers began to assign a new task. That was, every child had to learn how to write their own names. This was great. Some children with more complicated names wanted to cry, such as Lan Exin and Yang Shi Yang Luoqi, Chen Shuyun, Nan Zhaoyu. These 3 children's names were all 3 characters, but their 3 characters were relatively simple. Compared to Yang Shi and Lan Exin, who had 2 characters, it was much easier to write. Papa, why can't Shi be called Yang Yi? This is easy to write, the little girl said with a big imagination. Later, Yang Yi learned from other parents that there was indeed a child in another class named Xiao Yi, but he was a boy. In the face of his daughter's complaints, Yang Yi could only smile bitterly. There was no other way. When Murphy gave Shi a name, he was not present. If he knew that his daughter would complain all night, Yang Yi was afraid that he would give his daughter the simplest name, even if it was a homophone with his name. Fortunately, Yang Yi was very good at dealing with his daughter. He helped his daughter to tuck her hair behind her ear and smiled slightly. How about this? Today Daddy will write your name with Shi. Write a very, very big character. After a few times you will definitely learn it. Then, if Shi learns it, Daddy will tell you more of the story of Journey to the West tonight. Where were we last time? Did you say that Tang Sanzang was caught by a monster, and then Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji went to find him and fought in the Fire Cloud Cave? Yang Yi smiled and said, Shi, do you know that this monster is a child, and his father is actually the Bull Demon King, Sun Wukong's big brother when he wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Palace? Really? A child monster? Who is the Bull Demon King? Isn't he very powerful? Cece's attention was immediately attracted by Yang Yi, and she had forgotten her little resentment just now. She looked at her father with her big eyes and asked expectantly. She had forgotten the story of the Bull Demon King, but she still remembered when he wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Palace. You have to learn how to write first. Daddy will hold your hand and teach you how to write, okay? Yang Yi asked gently. Okay then. The little girl was suddenly very motivated and took the initiative to put her small hand holding the pen into her father's big hand. Chapter 214. For Shi's name, the word Yang in Yang Shi was not bad, and the little girl learned it quickly. However, when it came to the word Shi encountered a problem. Under the guidance of her father, the little girl, who was clever with her hands, understood it easily. However, because the word she was too complicated, she would always forget the details here and there. Don't write the turn of the word s directly. You have to write it stroke by stroke. Look at me. Yang Yi was also very patient, and he tirelessly corrected the details for she. Even so, she learned the two words for almost an hour, which was longer than the time she spent doing homework every day. Come, try it yourself. Yang Yi let go of his daughter's hand and encouraged her. Without her father's guidance, she was not used to it at first. Although she could still write according to the example above, the strokes were crooked. However, the improvement was obvious. After a while, she gradually became proficient. The two words Yang-shi were also written in a good way. It was almost there. Did such a small child expect her to write like a calligrapher? Yang Yi rubbed Shishi's little head, who was sitting at the children's desk and writing, and said softly, "Okay, Shishi, you've written very well. Go and play for a while. Look, Xiao Guai has come to call you." Xiao Guai, who was closest to Shishi, was still curious about why the little master did not come to play with him for so long. He raised his tail and wandered around nearby. From time to time, he would raise his head and look at the little master. Previously, it had always come over to rub against Cece's little feet, but it had been chased away by the hateful poop picker several times. Little Guai could only express its anticipation in this way, as if it was saying, "Little master, can you see me? I'm here. I'm here." However, Shishi did not want to play with him today. The little girl, who had been thinking about the whole time, had just been liberated. She hurriedly pestered her father to tell her a story. Papa, quickly tell me the story of the child monster. Is it powerful or not?" Since she performed very well today, Yang Yi simply gave the little girl a reward. He moved and jumped to an empty place in the living room. Shido, who was playing in the living room, was startled and jumped to the sofa with a meow. Speaking of which, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji found the fire cloud cave. They beat up the little monster until it ran back crying. It cried with the little monster. The little monster had a white face and red lips. His hair was tied up in a bun, and there was a red cinnabar dot between his eyebrows. As Yang Yi gestured, he narrated the story vividly. She couldn't help but hold her breath. Her watery eyes stared fixedly at her father as she listened to the story with rapt attention. Xiao Guai, who was at the side, tilted his head and glanced at the hateful poop picker. When he realized that he seemed to be ignoring him, he secretly wandered around his little master and stuck to him. However, today, Xiao Guai had no way to snatch the little master's favor from Red Boy. The next day, it seems that everyone has finished writing. Teacher Mu has already seen everyone's efforts. However, there are still a few children who have to perform. Nan Zhaoyu, your handwriting is very beautiful. And Yang Luoqi, you can write your own name independently. Very good. Lastly, the teacher has to specially praise Yang Shi, who is going to receive the little red flower today. Yang Shi has made great progress. She can write such a complicated name completely and beautifully. Shouldn't everyone give her a round of applause? Under the uneven applause and the envious gazes of her friends, especially Lan Exen, who couldn't write the word Exen no matter how hard she tried, she puffed out her small chest and received a little red flower in front of Teacher Mu. This was the first little red flower that she received. When she was learning to dance, although she danced quite well, the one who received the little red flower was Yang Luoqi. This honor was something that she had been looking forward to for a long time. Wearing the little red flower, the little girl's joyful smile almost never stopped. Even when she was sleeping in the afternoon, the little girl's lips curled up in her sleep as if she was dreaming of something happy. However, extreme joy begets sorrow. She insisted on wearing the little red flower to take an afternoon nap. In the end, when she woke up in the afternoon, the little red flower was squashed by her. In addition, she was angry when she woke up. The little girl cried sadly. Woo-woo. Perhaps there was regret, perhaps there was unwillingness, but when it gathered in her heart, It was a sadness that couldn't be resolved. This made Shishi cry in Teacher Shen's arms. No matter how Teacher Shen coaxed her, it was useless. Shishi's eyes were swollen from crying. Her tear-stained face made people feel pity for her. Fortunately, Teacher Shen carried Shishi outside under the shade of a tree to comfort her. Otherwise, Lan Exen and Yang Luoqi's melancholy golden beans would fall from their eyes. It was Teacher Mu who cut the unused red paper and made a little red flower for Shishi on the spot. Only then did the little girl stop crying and smile. This time, after experiencing the painful loss, Shishi was even more careful to protect the little red flower pinned to her chest. She didn't let anyone touch it. In the afternoon, Yang Yi went to pick up Shishi. The little girl, who had already been through the rain, ran over with a smile on her face. She couldn't wait to show her little red flower to her father. "Papa, look, come down and have a look. Shishi's name is here." Teacher Mu asked Shishi to write it. Only Shishi's flower has a name. Shishi took her father's hand and asked him to squat down and look at the little red flower on her chest. "Let me see." Yang Yi also attached great importance to his daughter's first reward, so he reached out his hand at once. "Oh, you can't touch it. It will be broken." Shishi pouted and quickly stepped back to protect the little red flower. "Well, Papa won't touch it. I'll just take a look. Look at Shishi's name," Yang Yi said quickly. Only then did Shishi agree. However, Shishi's name was a little covered by the petals in the middle. He couldn't see it if he didn't open it. After all, he was a father, and the treatment he received was different from others. He didn't know what kind of mental struggle the little girl went through, but she finally said hesitantly, "Then you can touch Papa, just a little. You can't break it." Looking at the little girl's treasured look, Yang Yi knew that he had to get her a small glass box and put it in it. Otherwise, Shishi would be heartbroken if it was broken at home. However, even if Shishi didn't care about it, Yang Yi would keep it. After all, it was the first small prize his daughter had won. "Papa, let's go back. You have to take a picture of me and send it to Mom." Sitting in the car, Shishi couldn't stop. She lowered her head and gently fiddled with the folds of the little red flower as she spoke. "Well, of course, I have to let your mother know about such a happy event." Yang Yi turned the steering wheel and said with a smile. Chapter 215. Shishi's Bedtime Stories quietly became popular in Guangzhou and gradually drove sales in the surrounding cities. Some cities even had a hard time finding the book. However, due to the chain bookstore's information blackout, the people of Sahara Publishing House only found out that Shishi's Bedtime Stories had long been out of stock and that readers could not find a way to buy it. It's bad enough that those bastards didn't give us a restock notice, but even the state-run bookstores are fooling us? Fu Jun slammed his cup on the table and asked angrily. His subordinate reported with a bitter face. "No, the state-run bookstores are fine, but their prices are a bit high. Sales really can't increase." This was the conclusion they reached after an overnight investigation. Most of the people who bought these fairy tale books were ordinary mothers and women who took care of household expenses. Their attitude toward buying books was the same as going to the market to buy groceries. They were greatly affected by the price. Therefore, they would not go to the state-run bookstores, and the chain bookstores were out of stock every day. Fu Jun had a headache, and so did the people of Sahara Publishing House. Only now did they know that Yu Qian's column recommendation last week had brought a surge in sales of the book, but it was too late. There were only a few days left before the first month's protection period. How could they have the opportunity to create enough data for the chain bookstores and state-run bookstores to keep it on the shelves? They missed this opportunity because the relationship between Sahara Publishing House and the Chain Bookstore Alliance was not as good as Fu Jun imagined. They could not rely on the two books Soldier's Assault and Drawing Sword to break the other party's blockade. Behind the scenes, there was still an invisible force suppressing the efforts of the small publishing houses. The other party was like an iron chain connecting boats and blocking the river. If they wanted to break through, They could only burn their boats and attack with more ferocious fire. Thinking back to the source of the craze, Fu Jun had an idea. He summoned 2 groups of people from Sahara Publishing House and Sahara Online Mall for a meeting. First of all, the customer service department will do a training. In the future, if anyone asks where they can buy our books, tell them to go to the Sahara Online Mall. It's cheap and convenient, and it can be delivered home. Then advertise for me. First, go and do a survey to see which newspapers our readers read the most. Then advertise in them. Buy an entire page and only use 1 couplet. The first line is, Shishi's bedtime story, good. The second line is, Sahara Online Shopping Mall, cheap. The horizontal line is, for the sake of the child, worth it. One of his subordinates asked nervously, Boss, isn't the cost of this advertisement a little too high? Nationwide, you can't do an advertisement without at least a few million. It will be huge, but this is also a good opportunity to expand the reputation of our Sahara Online Mall. It's worth a few million. Fu Jun waved his hand generously. In fact, the Sahara Online Shopping Mall had recently realized a profit, and the profit was not small. Fu Jun had the money to carry out a few big operations. He turned his head and said to the employees of the online shopping mall, You also have to seize the time to enrich our shopping mall's products. The few publishing houses that I asked you to talk to before, ask them to send their books to our warehouse. Also, expand your thinking. Don't just sell books, you can also sell infant-related products on the shelves. The suppliers have to control the quality. This time, Fu Jun decided to do whatever it took. He wanted to follow the momentum of Shishi's bedtime story, and fight a big battle to make a comeback. Yang Yi didn't care about how his books were selling at all. What he cared about was what Shishi would wear to the freshman party tonight to watch Guazi's show. I want to wear a dress. The little girl jumped on the bed. Although she was wearing a small nightgown after taking a shower, the little girl was still looking forward to the princess dresses she liked in the closet. I'm not wearing a dress today. It will be a little cold outside at night. Yang Yi rummaged through the closet and took out a pair of denim suspenders that he had bought for her at Haihong Mall. The light blue material was soft, and the texture was not as rough as the jeans that adults wore. What do you think of this? Yang Yi thought that she would wear this. A t-shirt with a layer of jeans covering her stomach like a coat would make her feel much warmer. This looks good too. She immediately changed her mind. She happily gestured on her body. There's a pocket on my belly. I like it too. Blue skin and a pocket on her stomach. Yang Yi didn't know why he thought of a famous anime character. After Journey to the West, he would tell Shishi the story of the blue fatty. Putting the blue fatty aside, Yang Yi found a t-shirt for Shishi that could match her jeans. The little girl jumped down from the closet and pulled out a short-sleeved t-shirt of the same style as Big Bear Cub with her father. It was her favorite. Black short-sleeved shirt, white body, and a black collar around the neck. Although the cartoon image on it wasn't a panda, didn't this t-shirt look like Cece's Big Bear Cat baby? Just wear this. Yang Yi asked. Will it be cold? After all, it was autumn. It's not cold, it's not cold. Wear this, wear this. The excited little girl began to take off her nightgown and put on the t-shirt of the same style as the panda. Yang Yi had to help his daughter put on the t-shirt. It was actually a little troublesome for girls to put on clothes. He took out her thin little arms, and that was not all. He gently pulled out her long hair that was caught in the back of the shirt and combed the messy hair with a comb. When he put on the overalls for Shishi, Yang Yi was surprised to find that his daughter had grown taller. The suspenders that were originally able to cover her knees now revealed her small knees. Fortunately, the t-shirt of the same style as the panda was not bought too long ago. Otherwise, Shishi would not fit. Thinking about it, Yang Yi was afraid that he would have to get rid of a batch of clothes for the little girl and then buy a batch of new clothes. The burden of raising a child was quite heavy. Fortunately, Yang Yi was not short of money now. Yang Yi put on a pair of white socks for Shishi's feet, and then put on a pair of small magenta sneakers with a white star pattern. Then, he went to the mirror for the little girl to show off. When this little girl put on the t-shirt of the same style as the panda without any pants, she could not help but want to look in the mirror. "Do you want me to tie up your hair?" Yang-yi sat on the edge of the bed and gently stroked Shishi's long hair as he asked. The little girl's hair was very good. It was black, thick and glossy. It felt like flowing clouds sliding through his fingertips, and it was very comfortable. No. Shishi waved at her father, the smile on her face still not disappearing. Shishi's outfit was not bad, especially the overalls. It was like a finishing touch, setting off the little girl's baby fat little face and making her look very cute. Yang-yi dressed his daughter up meticulously, but he dressed as usual. He even wore a pair of large cold slippers, freewheeling. "Big brother Yang, we have to hurry or it will start." Ding Xiang was anxiously waiting for them downstairs. She had changed in the shop early and did not need to put on makeup, so she naturally waited for a long time. She had always been very principled and did not want to be late. Chapter 216. Although Jiang City Media University claimed to be a comprehensive university, its real trump card was the many art schools. Therefore, its freshman party also attracted many non-freshmen and even non-native teachers and students. After all, the freshmen of the film school were already bright stars. As for the others, you didn't even know if there would be a future big star playing a big tree in a certain program that you had watched. The freshmen's party was held in Jiangchuan's open-air stadium. It was said that the stadium, which could accommodate thousands of people, had a stage set up today. Tens of thousands of small stools were placed on the stage, and there were even a few cameras set up. There were photography experts who would record these programs and make them into exquisite programs to be broadcast on the campus's internal television station. Yang-yi, led by Ding Xiang, quickly arrived at the scene. After verifying the admission tickets, they smoothly entered the inner field. Passers-by without tickets could only watch from the edge of the outer field. "Papa, my feet are not feeling well." The little girl stepped on the turf in the inner field and was pricked a few times by the hard grass leaves. Her delicate skin couldn't bear it. "Come, Papa will carry you." Yang-yi bent down to pick up Shishi and gently rubbed the little girl's legs. Under the guidance of the staff, Yang-yi and Ding Xiang found their seats. The seats were a little remote. After all, they were not freshmen and they were holding invitation tickets. But fortunately, the quality of the students present was good. Almost all of them sat steadily on the small stools. With Yang-yi's height, there was no big problem for him to see the stage clearly. The only problem was that Yang-yi's legs were a little long. It was not comfortable to sit like this. "When is Uncle Guo going to perform?" She asked expectantly before the party started. "His program is the 16th one. It's about the middle to the end. It should be past 9 o'clock when it's his turn." Ding Xiang had a program schedule in her hand. "Me see." Yang-yi was interested and wanted to take a closer look. With the bright lights on the stage, Yang-yi saw a familiar name. Thousand Miles Chuanshu. Aren't they seniors? Why is he performing on stage? Ding Xiang didn't care about gossip. She didn't even know who Qianli Chuanshu was. How could she answer Yang-yi's question? On the other hand, she excitedly stretched out her little head and said, "Let me have a look too. Papa, let me have a look too." "Can you read it?" Yang-yi handed it to her with a smile. The girl looked at it for a while, but she didn't understand. She just pointed out the surname of one of the students. "This one is the same as Shi." The freshman gala finally began. The host team was very luxurious. There were 4 men and 4 women. They were dressed in well-ironed suits and gorgeous evening gowns. They looked like they could compete with the television station's New Year's Eve party. In fact, it was really like the New Year's Eve party. The opening dance was choreographed by the new students of the dance academy. The girls danced very amazingly, and the second program was a tight singing of songs. One performer after another appeared on the stage and sang half a song in succession. It was a bit too much for the eyes to take in. Then, the two hosts came out and made a transition before announcing the name of the next program. However, it was still singing. This time it was a solo, and it was the kind that could sing a complete song. Before the singer came out, there was a burst of cheers from the audience, and most of them were girls. Tang Kai Tai. Ding Xiang couldn't help but call out his name in a low voice. Yang Yi saw a handsome boy walk onto the stage with a microphone. He was wearing a white suit and looked like a Prince Charming. He attracted the attention of almost all the girls present. "Who is he?" Yang Yi asked Ding Xiang curiously. "He is a new student of the Film Academy. I saw him at the orientation. I heard that he started acting in movies when he was very young," Ding Xiang said to Yang Yi. Her memory was not bad, but she still couldn't distinguish the difference between movies and TV series. Tang Kai Tai sang a fast song and danced a cha-cha with the female backup dancers, which attracted a burst of excited cheers from the audience. However, Yang Yi shook his head slightly after hearing it. Her singing was mediocre. Her voice was clear and a little distinguishable. Furthermore, she had some singing skills. However, there was a lot of scratches and her breathing was not long enough. After she danced for a while, she was almost out of breath. Her singing was terrible. Even if Yang Yi hadn't used his internal energy to expand his vocal range, he could still beat this guy who relied on his fame and handsomeness to win the cheers. At this time, the director of the gala, Du Yuanlei, who was sitting at the front of the stage, frowned secretly. She regretted letting Tang Kai Tai on this program. His singing was just average and he even played tricks. In the end, his singing got worse. Phew! Du Yuanlei sighed gloomily. She also knew that it was useless to regret. The school had told her to take care of Tang Kai Tai. Moreover, Tang Kai Tai was experienced in dealing with people. As soon as he came up, he called her senior sister. Even if she didn't like Tang Kai Tai's program, she had no right to reject it. If I were an independent director, would I not have to be restrained like this? Du Yuanlei was a little envious of some big directors, such as Director Feng, who had been famous for a long time, and Director Chen Fengchen, who was highly respected. However, these thoughts were just thoughts. Which of those big directors who meant what they said didn't endure a long period of hardship before they became successful? What qualifications did she have now to get the treatment of these big directors? Du Yuanlei continued to look at the stage, but her attention was on the reaction of the audience below. The next program alternated between singing and dancing, and from time to time there would be music programs. After all, not every student was a professional performer. These performances from various departments and specializations were of varying quality. Du Yuanlei could only stagger the arrangements as much as possible. After one or two mediocre performances, there would definitely be a wonderful professional performance. The reaction of the audience below the stage also confirmed her idea. This kind of surprise from time to time made the audience not fall into a state of boredom. After the climax, there was a buffer period, which allowed them to shout more intensely in the next round. Unknowingly, the program was already halfway through. The host on the stage was enthusiastically introducing a group. They are the representative of a student group. They are the best example of ordinary fans embarking on the road of dreams. Qianli Chuanshu, a folk singer group formed by Lu Xiaoshu from the School of Architecture and Miao Chuan from the School of Electronic Engineering. Because of a street performance, they were spotted by a talent scout. Not long ago, they were signed by Xiangnan's Rong Huada agency. After the news spread, they have become the new generation of campus idols of Jiangchuan. Du Yuanlei looked at the two people who were about to go on stage with interest. This group could be said to be the biggest news of Jiangchuan this month. The series of labels that the host just mentioned was the reason why they were so closely watched by the students. Although Du Yuanlei wasn't very optimistic about the agency that Qianli Chuanshu signed with, she still knew a little about it. The agency was more inclined towards the film industry and didn't have many resources in the field of singers. However, she was still happy for these two juniors. After all, they were pursuers of dreams. Good luck. Qianli Chuanshu. Chapter 217. Qianli Chuanshu went on stage. Their appearance set off a wave of cheers. Clearly, the freshmen were not unfamiliar with the combination of Lu Xiaoshu and Miao Chuan. It's the two uncles who sing well. She was a little surprised as she pulled on her father's sleeve. The little girl's eyesight was very good. She immediately recognized Lu Xiaoshu and Miao Chuan. Yes, that's right. It's them. Yang Yi smiled slightly. Under the dazzling lights of the stage, although Lu Xiaoshu and Miao Chuan still looked ordinary and dressed in ordinary clothes, it was obvious that signing with a management company was a great encouragement for them. The two of them were high-spirited, and their faces were brimming with bashful but confident smiles. I'm lost in the northern winter, wandering in the boundless wilderness, looking at a few geese flying away, thinking of her. The familiar melody and lyrics sounded. Qianli Chuanshu began their singing. Yang Yi could not help but sway his head slightly as he listened to their music. This was a somewhat sad folk song. Although it was an unreleased work by an amateur, it was still very pleasant to listen to. Especially Lu Xiaoshu's voice that was as clean as the northern snowy plains. It brought out their own unique charm. This was much more exciting than the other performances of the entire evening party so far. There was still a difference between a folk song and a rock song. The audience did not need to be too fanatical to vent their emotions. They only needed to listen quietly in order to appreciate the beauty of a folk song. Below the stage, not only Yang Yi, but the rest of the audience were intoxicated. Even Ding Xiang, who did not really know how to appreciate music, was listening attentively. There were no twists and turns in the middle. Qianli Chuanshu finished singing their song in its entirety. Following that, the audience below the stage warmly applauded. However, Yang Yi realized that they had perfected the ending of the song. It was much cleaner than the previous version. Perhaps they had listened to his opinion. Or perhaps they had an expert to guide them after signing with the management company. Yang Yi did not know the answer, but he did not care. He also smiled and applauded these two boys who loved music. After Thousand Miles Kawaki finished singing, although the audience was still shouting for them to sing another song, the party still went on as planned. She was a little bored because the next few programs were very ordinary, especially the skits. She couldn't understand them and didn't like them. She kept pestering her father and asked, "Papa, when will it be Uncle Gua's turn?" Soon. After repeated questions and responses, it was finally Guazi's turn. The girl, who had started to yawn, finally became a little more spirited. "I want to see Uncle Gua." She couldn't sit still on her little stool. She wanted to squeeze into her father's arms. She felt that she could see more clearly sitting on her father's lap. Yang Yi was actually a little uncomfortable sitting there. After all, he was 187 meters tall. Sitting on such a small stool, it was difficult for him to stretch his long legs. However, he still carried Shi and hugged her in his arms. The party was very lively, but after all, it was autumn. The night wind blew, and the coldness penetrated the clothes and seeped into the bone marrow. Yang Yi hugged his daughter. The little girl's skin was cold, and it was very distressing. However, she was unwilling to wear the jacket that her father brought for her. Yang Yi could only use his body temperature to replace the sun's rays to warm the little girl. After the host's introduction, Jiangnan's college entrance examination top scorer, Fatty Gua, finally went on stage with his guitar. This guy was not afraid at all. As soon as he went on stage, he winked at his classmates, which attracted a lot of attention and made a lot of students laugh. Cough, cough. Guazi fiddled with the microphone and adjusted it to a suitable height for himself. Then he said slowly, "Thank you, host, for your love. However, the label of top scorer should be removed. Guazi is just an ordinary freshman who came to sing for everyone today." The audience burst into laughter. Originally, when the host introduced him as the top scorer, Everyone was a little uncomfortable. However, now that they saw this guy's honest appearance, they felt a lot more comfortable in their hearts. There were also many people who cheered loudly. This slightly dull atmosphere was suddenly stirred up. It was even more lively than when Tang Kai-tai was at the beginning. This was something that Du Yuanlei did not expect. She looked at Guazi, who was like a clown on the stage. She was a little annoyed. If I knew that this person's stage presence was so good, I wouldn't have arranged for Qin Wen to go on stage after him. Qin Wen was another celebrity freshman in the film academy this year. She was a small actress who had filmed a lot of movies and television works. However, at this moment, Du Yuanlei saw Guazi looking at her. His eyes were fixed on her. "What do you mean?" Du Yuanlei looked around and confirmed that Guazi was indeed looking at her. She had an ominous feeling. On the stage, Guazi held the microphone on the shelf and said, "However, although I'm here to sing for everyone today, the song I'm going to sing today, don't get me wrong. It's not my original song, but a new song that I asked for from a very good friend. It hasn't been released on the market yet." Ding Xiang, who was beside Yang Yi, laughed and said, "What very good friend? Isn't this big brother Yang Yi?" She looked at Sister Ding Xiang in confusion. She did not understand why Sister Ding Xiang would mention her father's name. However, she still looked at Uncle Gua on the stage with full attention. Didn't they come to watch tonight's performance to see Uncle Gua's performance? Guazi continued. "I want to sing this song for a special person. The director of our party today, the most beautiful senior Du Yuanlei." As soon as this was said, it caused an uproar. It was not that everyone thought there was anything wrong with campus love. It was just that this sudden confession was a little surprising. After the uproar, there was a burst of applause and uncontrollable laughter around Du Yuanlei. Du Yuanlei frowned. She found it difficult to accept Guazi's confession of love. It could even be said that she was disgusted. She did not like this kind of publicity, and even more so, she disliked Guazi's flamboyant personality. "Senior Du, this little fatty is going to sing a love song for you," a girl next to her joked. However, Du Yuanlei's face was cold. She glared at them and the others were suddenly silent. After all, she was the director. College days. I hope everyone likes it. Guazi was about to start singing. His voice was finally not so jumpy. After snapping his fingers, he calmed down and began to play the guitar he was holding. The prelude was a little long and there were no piano chords. It was a little thin, but the melody was still very pleasant to listen to. It was clear and simple, like raindrops dripping back and forth under the eaves. The audience, who were originally talking about Guazi's sudden confession, were also attracted by this melody. They quieted down and looked back at the stage, at the boy who was playing the guitar with his head bowed. This was also a folk song, and a campus folk song. Below the stage, 1,000 Miles Kawaki, who did not leave, became spirited. Lu Xiaoshu and Miao Chuan looked at Guazi with some surprise. They listened carefully and also wanted to learn other people's lyrics and music. This was the habit of every musician. Passing through the sports field to be drenched by the rain. "My Xiaoyu, when did you become lonely?" Guazi's voice, which still had a hint of childishness in it, was now displaying its other value, immature and clean. Different from Lu Xiaoshu's vicissitudes of life, Guazi's voice was clean with the mark of youth. He did not deliberately imitate a deep voice. Just softly humming such a campus folk song, it immediately tugged at people's heartstrings. You're tuning in to the Whispers of Romance YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.